a way to start a bike race. La Vuelta on the opening stage was, quite frankly, a bit of a nightmare, particularly for those who went late. La Vuelta, GC standings after stage one. In 7th place is Mas. This is how they stack up. Ayuso now 37 seconds down with Almeida. Eddie Dunbar had a nightmare after crashing as well, 51 seconds in arrears. Stage 2, Mataro is where we start, just inland from the coast. Climbing straight out of the back door, Category 3 test has already been completed. They are busy making their way in a loop all the way back to Barcelona, or as it's now called, the rainy city. Not really, but it is at the moment. Fingers crossed. As were described to us earlier, not nice. Wow. Welcome everybody. We have ourselves a breakaway. They've had to fight to be here, and that's always a good thing. It shows willing. Just about to come to the main peak of the day, and this should decide our King of the Mountains man for the finale. Andrea Piccolo has made the trip for EF Education Easy Post, hoping to keep the Italians very much the forefront of our thoughts. Great one-day racer. He's up here for the men in pink. Matteo Sobrero keeping it Italian. Also here from Jayco, a team that took a tumble yesterday big time, didn't they? Nearly all went down. I think only one stayed upright. Javier Romo is also here for Astana. Yetzabol, the veteran, near veteran these days, 33 years of age. He's also up the road. And Joel Nicolau is also here for Caja Rural. So the Spanish teams making a noise for themselves today. And thankfully, thank heaven, it's dry at the moment. Say it kind of quietly, because we're hoping it stays that way all the way to Barcelona, because we want a big punch up at the end and no alliances against. The red jersey of DSM. I know, who'd have thought? Well, nobody did. The weather yesterday was as cruel as it might have been in a horror movie, really. And it turned out to be a horrible experience, of course, for Laurens de Plus, for Ineos Grenadiers. So not nice at all. We have got ourselves a breakaway up front. DSM doing a great job of moderating that just for the time being. It's dry. Well, at least for now, keeping fingers, toes and everything else crossed at the moment. Yes, we're just heading over our big climb of the day, a Category 2 test, which sits almost plumb in the middle. Not quite for the pedants out there, but you get the idea. Still lumpy towards the end, and of course we have Montjuic to deal with at the very last. Organisers have pulled back the finish line, the GC finish line, to 9 kilometres from the end, but they haven't extinguished the bonus seconds, which are always a big temptation, especially early on in a race, and especially for teams who had some difficulty yesterday. Well, Remco Evenepoel will probably be thinking, well, we had a decent run against many of the GC contenders. Shall we have a dig today? I think of all of the riders, he's the most likely to break any alliances that may be formed. We've seen Jonas Vingegaard going and speaking with Enric Mas, making the suggestion that they effectively self-neutralised today because of the weather conditions, but they've improved. So let's hope it stays this way. 2 minutes and 4 is the gap to a breakaway that's more than a reasonable one, and the Italian raiding party continues, I guess you might say, with our leader, Lorenzo Milesi, surprisingly so for DSM, is heading the race in the red jersey, which is why they are doing the chasing and moderating this. They've got some options today as well, DSM, so they don't want to extinguish that by letting a breakaway go. 2 minutes and 2 is the gap. It's been about as wide as 2.5, nearly 3 minutes at one point. Andrea Piccolo is here in the pink for EF Education. We have Matteo Sobrero also for Jayco, a team that really went through the washing machine yesterday, almost literally. The only thing that was missing was soap powder. They were tumbled all over the place. I think only one stayed up, and I think that might well have been Sobrero himself. Well, he's in the break. There's 2 Italians up here, 2 Spanish as well, with Javier Romo and João Nicolau from Astana and Caja Rural respectively. And Yetzabol, he made the bridge over to the breakaway. Was in no man's land for quite some time, but the veteran from Burgos, the Dutchman, who can sprint, I think he's the biggest threat within the breakaway and possibly one of those who would offer up a little bit of concern. Javier Romo is the best placed of the break, behind Andrea Piccolo. Piccolo's 6 seconds down. Javier Romo 17. EF Education yesterday did get themselves a very good finish amongst those teams that will be of concern deeper into this race. Always good to see. It's a very tight unit, the men in pink. You just never know. Under the 2-minute mark then, with 116.4 kilometres to go and a Category 2 mountain test coming up. We've already had 1 climb so far. That's already been dispatched. And our breakaway, well, they share the honours amongst them, of course. Javier Romo it was that took the 3 points on the 3, 2 and 1. 2 going to João Nicolau and the 1 last point going to Mateo Sobrero. They were the initial instigators of the break. However, there is another mountains test for them to deal with, and this is going to be temptation. Sean Kelly, all jerseys are indeed worthy ones, and the King of the Mountains in this particularly mountainous race is going to be hard to achieve.
It certainly is, and it always has been the last number of years because of the difficult terrain, as we have again this year. And we're coming to that point now pretty shortly where we're coming to this counting point, and these guys, they know that this is an opportunity to get the jersey for a day, maybe a number of days, and they've made the breakaway. So and some of the teams that are here, as we see, to get a jersey in this race would be very important for them, because the teams that are wildcard teams, we can see BH here, Burgos, and we can see Caja Rural, of course. They get invited into the race, and if they could get a jersey for a day or a number of days, it would be a great opportunity for them to get some exposure in this race, get some publicity, as we call it. And they're starting to look at each other a little bit here as we get up this final kilometres to the top of this climb, which is a second category climb, so quite a number of points available here. 5, 3 and 1 at the top of this one, so they're starting to mark each other a bit and see who's going to make the move. But yeah, weather conditions getting a little bit better, but again, those showers forecasted, hopefully they have all blown off now. We might get a drier finish, but what a horrible conditions we had at the finish here in Barcelona for this stage 2, because it has been just so much rain, wind, barriers and leaves all over the place, a lot of debris on the roads. Hopefully that will calm down a bit.
Here we go then. First King of the Mountains test for you, and Astana very much determined to make this their own, and that's Romo, who went over the top first, number 194. He's our King of the Mountains man, Sean. All he's got to do is finish today. Took the first climb. There's 3 categorised climbs today. The final climb does get double points, so 6, 4 and 2 bonus seconds up for grabs there. I think the points stay the same, however, over the mountain, but you do get bonus time as well. So a total of 16 bonus seconds up for grabs. That's going to be a temptation to some teams here. Remco Evenepoel just hoving into view. Of all of the favourites, Sean, if there is an appeal for neutralisation, I would say he's possibly the least likely to abide by it, because they really went deep Soudal Quick-Step yesterday. They were determined to make a noise, even if they finished in the least favourable conditions of everybody. Look how much respect they're still giving the corners here on the descent. It's wet here, Sean, and I guess rain has been the character of this entire race. Well, so far.
Yes, well, this race, it's horrible conditions to start a 3-week race, and starting in Barcelona here. Yesterday the team time trial not having rained for many months, and then you get this downpour as the team TT was about to start again today. This forecast were certainly going to the possibility, the danger of getting showers at the end is very much there. And as Robbie McEwen was saying earlier, the forecast for today is showers all during the day, and if you get those showers going into the final, well, then it's going to be another treacherous one. And Yeah, there's all sorts of confusion here this morning, to try and get the stage neutralised in the end, meaning, they take the time at a point. And it was talked about at the top of the Montjuic climb. Now it's been pushed out to 9 kilometres. But still, they're allowing those time bonuses at the top of Montjuic. There are also the time bonuses to finish. So that is going to create major confusion, because some riders will decide, well, I'm going to go and try and get a few bonus seconds here. And, that really makes the race nervous. The perfect situation would be, OK, 9 kilometres, the times are taken with the GC. There's no time bonuses. Leave the men, the fast men and the punchers who want to fight it out for the stage, or a GC man if he does that. But the time has already been recorded at 9 kilometres to go, and that is Basta. It's all very clear. But with the time bonus being allowed in here, this is going to make it very confusing again. And there will be riders that say, OK, let's try something here. Other riders will not want to do it. So you can't have an agreement in that situation.
You can't. And it only takes one link of the chain, Sean, to be broken, and then all bets are off and you're just going to go for it. It almost adds to the confusion.
Well, if you allow the riders, to make up a decision, there is going to be no decision. It's never going to happen, because some riders will say, OK, we want to race. We feel we can get something out of this. And then it just all goes, it just all goes wrong. And unless the organisers, make a rule, take a decision, and then just announce that over race radio, or try and announce it before the start, and everybody knows then. But with the situation at the moment, it's going to be another one where teams are going to be thinking, well, is he going to go for the final here? Is he going to try and take some of the time bonus at the top of Montjuic and possibly at the finish? Because there's riders here who are in this race to win it outright, capable of doing something with this final, because Montjuic is going to stretch out the peloton. The real fast men will not be able to maybe stay in contention if they really push on here. So that is going to be a very complicated final.
Well, the water's got in everywhere. It's even got in the lens of the camera here. You can see it looks like we're looking through what would have been a gel filter in the olden days of photography. So you'll just have to excuse that, I'm afraid, for the time being. A lot of pickup water. It doesn't matter how you mitigate against it in terms of covers and the like. It only takes the odd little dribble to get in there, and then it warms up, because it's a reasonably warm day, certainly by Northern European standards that we're dealing with today. About 22 Celsius, 22 to 24 we're dealing with. Virtually no wind, as you can see from the vegetation. But we have this long, sinuous descent now. This has still got about another 20 kilometres to go. Quite technical, a couple of kickers along the way. Well, we've got 4 climbs before we actually get to the baseline, if you will, where it flattens out a little bit. Some rolling terrain, a couple of non-categorised peaks still to be dealt with along the way, and then our run for home. And that's where we will have a good deal of concern, not least because the Montjuic climb that characterises our finale is really spiteful. Now, we're only doing it once, and as a result, that's going to widen, really, the capabilities of those who can go well. Could it be a quick man, somebody like Brian Cocard, who's gone well at Montjuic in the past, when we've been talking about the Tour of Catalonia, of course, where it's very much a famous finale, laps upon laps around it. It's gorgeous up there, I must say, and I hope we get a good view of it with the weather today. But he's only got to do it once, so I'm actually wondering whether we might bring in a few names that perhaps you would have crossed off for today. You never know. I've got a feeling that we could be looking at some surprises, and DSM might even hold on to the jersey with the likes of Oscar Onley, or indeed more significantly, if those situations that I've just been describing stand true, Alberto Dainese. I've just been watching him in the Arctic race of Norway. I was lucky enough to go up there, and I can tell you that even the great Tor Usoft, who was sitting alongside me while I was working there, was not impressed with the weather. But carrying that, I mean, this is going to feel like truly balmy stuff for those who actually did make the tour of that race. Dainese was one of those, and he looked very strong, particularly on some of the high ground, which, of course, as you head towards North Cape up there in Norway, you get. But temperatures were about 8 degrees and it was raining. So this, oh, it's like a summer shower for that man. So I'm hoping that he suddenly decides to dial it in. Always gets very emotional when he wins, does Dainese. Very passionate rider. Always very impressed with him, I must admit. So anyway, he's my secret squirrel picked for today, but don't blame me if it all goes awry. And, you know, Roglic wins. Why not? Minute and a half, just 92 seconds is separating the breakout front. This is not the biggest gap that I have ever seen, I must say. It's holding station at the moment. In fact, it's just being trimmed down, determined, our DSM. Well, this day is drier than we'd perhaps predicted, Sean, and for that we can be grateful.
Yes, for the moment it's drying out a bit, and that will help the riders. But we can see on the descent there, it's still wet roads, and you could see some riders, you know, not comfortable at all. And after yesterday, if you were one of the riders that slided out there, and there was many of them guys in that situation, you're going to be a little bit nervous here on today's stage. And we can see, you know, the dry sections, then the wet sections, damp sections, and you know, they're just going down at an easier pace here, but you can see the gaps, you know, appearing between the riders, and that tells that, you know, some riders are not as confident and not as comfortable as other ones on the descent. And when you're going at this pace, you know, it's not a difficult one to get down the descent. But when we get back into the final here, and the final run into Barcelona, you know, when you get to that 10 kilometers to go, that's when it gets very, very technical. And the reason we have the 9 kilometers to go, it's you know, a good one, because it takes that danger out of it. But again, before that, depending on the weather conditions, if we get wet roads, it will be a hectic one again, because, you know, there'll be a big fight to stay in the front. And then it goes on, of course, who is going to contest, you know, the final, the run up, the Montjuic climb, the time bonus, the time bonuses, the finish. All of that is going to, you know, create, you know, big nervousness within the peloton. And yeah, I think it's going to be another one of these hectic finals, unless it dries off a lot, which is highly unlikely.
Vuelta, it's where troglodytes live. Yeah. I'm not talking about the band, Wild Thing and all that. But I guess an apt theme tune for today. But yeah, there's some beautiful sights along the way, albeit a little bit damp today, but stick with it. I think we're going to get some great drama towards the end, and I mean that in a good way. Nothing too silly. Yeah, Vuelta, pre-Romanesque country house, using the natural cornices of the irregular walls. You can tell I'm probably reading this now, but built in a defensive style. In other words, they could chuck stuff at you. And although they used to say it was boiling oil they'd pour upon people who were sacking castles and fortified buildings, they wouldn't waste oil. I think that was just a very kind way of describing the contents of, how can I put it, the waste bucket. I'll leave you to use your own imagination as to what was thrown, but it certainly wasn't oil. They wouldn't have wasted it. Oh, sound like a history teacher. Been around long enough. 107.9 kilometres to go. Minute 42, so the brake's just pushed on a little bit, and we're looking at our glorious leader here, who's doing a fine job of sporting that jersey. Well, all jerseys at least being born at the moment, even if they're not owned by DSM. There was no Mountains jersey yesterday, however it's being sported by Sean Flynn from DSM. Of course, they're cock-a-hoop with everything. It's your region we're playing with, Catalonia, of course. I'm just wondering whether the mountains, the rain, whether we might just get some Basque movement today. It could happen. There's a lot of riders as well, Sean, that are extremely familiar with this terrain, and thankfully with the finish as well, having of course raced in the Tour of Catalonia, one of my favourite races actually.
Yes, well, of course, a lot of riders would know the roads here, and especially the final, you know, the Catalonia race finished near Barcelona for many, many years. And yeah, the problem is the wet conditions. That is the big concern here for everybody. And you know, they will be hoping that they will get a dry period when we come into this final 20 kilometres, 25 kilometres, and the roads might be dry, because, as you say, Carlton, you know, if you get a a dry period. It can dry out very quickly. The heat is here in the road, and it can dry off, majorly quick. So that's what they're all hoping here. But again, that's 106 kilometres down the road here. So you just get through the stage, try and stay safe, and see what will happen in the end. And DSM are doing the job here to control, because they're in a prime position, because they have the race leader, but they also have a number of riders very much up there in the GC. You have Bardet, who is very much up there. Sean Flynn, as you said, Only is very much in there. Chris Hamilton, all of those riders are at the top of the GC standing, so it's normal that they are going to ride. And then Denesi, of course, he's a bit further down. He lost a little bit of time yesterday. I think 22 seconds was roughly that he lost, because he didn't finish with the leading part of the DSM team. But again, another rider whom we'll be thinking about this stage, and it's going to be an interesting one. Who's going to take this stage win today, because there's a lot of names you could throw in the hat.
Well, one I'd like to throw in, if we're talking about quick men who can survive the climb, is Brian Coquard. And you're thinking, well, where did he finish last time when we came up here in Catalonia? Yes, he was well down. But for the first 3 laps, did we do 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 laps? 6 times over Montjuic. I think it was 7 laps in total, but 6 on the climb. He was fantastic for the first 4 laps and then just faded. He has only got to do it once today. That day, earlier on this year, in late March, just before we came into April, Remco Evenepoel took the final stage into Barcelona ahead of Primož Roglic. You've seen the idea of those who were there. Corbin Strong was well placed behind Marc Soler. Mikkel Landa had a good run. Andy Kron, who's also here for Lotte Destiny, also went extremely strongly. So you see the sort of riders who survived. Oscar Onley also on board, and he is, of course, also running today. He'd probably be a very good bet for DSM if you want to hold on to the advantage today. So yeah, why not? There's a few cards to play, but just watch Brian Coquard. I think he will be certainly willing to invest today. Maybe too far back, of course, for Cofidis to start thinking about taking the jersey, but he can certainly take a stage win, and that will help him. Cofidis yesterday finishing 9th, 22 seconds down, so I guess with some gaps he might have some options. 2 minutes, darkening skies again. It's still threatening, Sean. We can't take anything for granted weather-wise, and a few spots of rain upon the camera lens here on the static on the descent.
I think this is what we were expecting here today. The showers, coming in, then maybe drying off a bit and coming back again. And you can see here, times looks good, bit of sunlight here, and then you get a dark period where it gets very dark, and that is going to be, I think, the way it's going to be all for this final 104 kilometres here. And you're just hoping as a rider in there in the peloton that it will be dry in the final, and there's not these waterlogged roads as we see yesterday, and we've seen this morning here as well. All that debris on the road, that will be of course cleaned up, but if the rain comes down again, well, then there will be possibly a lot of water lying on the road, and that is going to be the real danger point, and a lot of riders do not like those conditions. And some riders, they can ride more confident in the rain, they can get around the corners. Other riders are so scared that they knock off their speed, and that is the problem here for this final run. To get onto Montjuic, that's 7 or 8 kilometres beforehand, and then Montjuic itself, and the descent down to the finish, it's a real complicated final.
It's 182 kilometres today, and that's up there with above the average really for the race. It's not the longest stage, that's our penultimate stage at 208 kilometres, stage 20 to Guadarrama. But it is a big ask straight out of the back door, and they were climbing, of course, today, right at the beginning. It was designed to garner a breakaway. That's precisely what we got. And now we have a King of the Mountains man in the form of one of those who's made the effort to get himself in the break. And that is Javier Romo of Astana. So a Spanish rider guaranteed a jersey at the end of today. 2 minutes and 14 is your gap. Tomorrow we go to Andorra, which is, I'm just hoping the weather is a little bit more pleasant deeper in the Pyrenees, because it's not that far away, Sean, from Barcelona. One can only assume that the weather may well still be inclement.
Yes, well, that'll be a very concerning one, because we're going into the high altitude tomorrow, and that's not going to be a nice one if you have the weather conditions we've had in the the past 24 hours or so. They'll be hoping it will clear up a bit, and but sometimes, yeah, when you get the bad conditions down here, it can hang about for a number of days, and again, this will not be a one they'll be looking forward to today. We see the start there, and they just raced a bit out to start. The break got away, and then it's been settled down here, and that is the situation most of the riders in the peloton will like. The pace being set by DSM, and just keep tags on the breakaway, not allow them to get that big advantage of 5 or 7 minutes at all. And this will slowly start to come down as we get ever so close to the finish here. And this is a nice situation at the moment, but it ain't going to last.
No, it's not. We just passed by the Monasterio of San Benet de Bar, one of Catalonia's best preserved monastic institutions. It's been here since the Middle Ages. 950 they put the first stone down and said, we need to add to this. We could build ourselves something rather spectacular. And of course they did. Didn't really finish building it until 1,000 years later, so it was a big project. We've got a lovely herb garden, and I imagine as well there's a bit of communion wine knocking around somewhere, but obviously under lock and key, but something to be enjoyed. Just over 100 kilometres then of the day remaining. 2 minutes and 13 is your gap, and it seems unstressed, at least for now. I think a lot of insurance has been dialed into today, and we're discovering it right now. Who's your pick for today, Sean? I know it's a long, long way out. Do you think it is going to be the favourites that start to duke it out?
A very difficult one to pick a winner here today, because we have seen at the start, Vingegaard talking with Enric Mas. He went to that team bus there, and there have been a lot of discussion between the big men of this race, meaning the GC riders. Will they all obey orders if there's agreement there, and obey the agreement, I suppose, is the wording, and that's always difficult. From my experience in the peloton and commentating in the last number of years, when you see those situations, unless it's very clear by the organisers what's going to happen, then it's going to be a complicated one. And the meaning of that is allowing those time bonifications in the end, as I have mentioned already, and I'm repeating myself a bit here. If they're still in, well, then it's going to be a one where some of the riders might want to go for the time bonus, but we'll have to wait and see later on.
We will. 2 minutes and 13 we're holding, and they're being serviced, as you can see. The gap's significant enough for them to enjoy a little bit of sustenance being handed up from the car. That's the advantage of being in the breakaway. Let's go through them, shall we? Just to tell you who indeed is up here and enjoying life as much as you possibly can up front at the head of the race. Well, it's a reasonably accomplished breakaway, I have to say. Whenever EF Education Easy Post are involved in anything, they usually make a decent noise for themselves, and they had to fight to get into today's breakaway, but they've made it up the road. Decent rider, to say the very least, is Andrea Piccolo. Got a decent kick on him as well towards the end of today. Piccolo could be somebody who just upsets the apple cart today. Just getting more notice that actually bad weather is still bedeviling us at the finish line. We had standing water actually there, which is not a pleasant thing at all, I'm afraid. So let's just hope that that dissipates a little bit by the time we get there. It's not handy conditions just for the time being. Helicopter's still airborne, which is always a good sign, because that means that we're going to still get relayed pictures for you. 98.9 kilometres to go, just shy of the 100. 2 minutes and 13 is the gap. Standing water at the finish, a little bit of mulchy leaves as well, and that's at the sprint finale. They've pulled the start back, they've tried to dial in a bit of insurance, but the breaker really is going to be the bonus seconds that are up for grabs, because so many yesterday got hobbled by the course. Resplendent in red is DSM, and that man, Lorenzo Milesi, who must be absolutely delighted to be holding that jersey. A little bit of suspicion that he was at a party and he'd been given all the toys yesterday. A wider grin you'd be hard pushed to find, unless, of course, you're looking at Adam Blythe, who joins us right now. Adam, what a testing effort it was yesterday for absolutely everybody. And I guess what a potential nightmare we've got at the end of today. I mean, all we can do is keep our fingers crossed, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Carl. We can keep our fingers crossed. The rules that have been put in place, a little bit odd, if I do say so myself, neutralising the time. It's like a sprint day at 3 kilometres to go. The time gaps, they don't give any towards the finish line unless there are splits. If there is splits today, they're going to take that from 9k to go, so you don't have to worry about that. But keeping those bonus seconds in, 16 seconds up for grab with the bonus on the finish line and the one at the top of the climb. The GC guys need to fight for that. They need to go for it. They need to try and get those points as well, the time, sorry. So it doesn't really neutralise the race or make it any safer, really. It's for the guys that aren't going to be too bothered about winning the stage and believe that they can't. They'll make it safer for those guys, but for the likes of Remco, I believe this is a good stage for today. He'll be full gas going into the finish, so yeah, it doesn't necessarily make it too much safer. It just looks and sounds like they have if you don't read into it too much. Yeah.
Sean, you've said yourself, I tell you what, let's just remind ourselves before we come to Sean, there's an awful lot else going on at the moment, including, of course, we're extremely busy with mountain bikers. Men and women are involved in the Olympia series that is running at the moment. And you can keep in touch with that as we stay with this, with 97 and more kilometres of the day remaining. 96 kilometres to go. We're just talking about those who are up the road. Andrea Piccolo, bit of a kick on him. He's a youngster, just 22 years of age, managed to stay reasonably upright, as indeed If Education Easy Post did yesterday. Sobrero, good time trialist for Jaco Alula, really couldn't show his heels yesterday, looking after his team, but unfortunately almost the entire team went down for Jaco. They wanted to make amends for that. They put him up the road, 51 seconds down on the leader. Piccolo only 6 seconds down after that good finish by EF yesterday. Javier Romo has also made the trip for Astana. In fact, he's now our King of the Mountains man, in their familiar blue, dead centre, actually less familiar here. They've gone a bit groovy and quite a busy jersey, which they introduced in the Tour. Ever more so, I think. They've darkened it down even further. It looks like to me anyway. Yetzebol, maybe it's just a slightly different print for the cold weather, of which we have. Yetzebol took a long time to bridge over to the break. Now, he has got a proper sprint on him. He's also very, very wily. Winner of the Olympia Tour back in the day, but 33 years of age now. Found a home within Burgos. Can it be a pleasant one for him? And Joel Nicolau of Caio Rural is also here. Yetzebol is the best sprinter. I'm suspecting, Adam, that if they go all the way, it's a long shot, isn't it? The Yetzebol would absolutely love this scenario.
Yeah, well, let's remind ourselves as well that there is the time rule being brought in at 9 kilometres ago, not all the way at the finish line as well. So they have to remember that. The peloton has to remember that. To make sure they haven't got too much of a distance. But yeah, I believe this break might be able to go the way. I expected a lot more rain on the roads and the roads to be wetter than they actually are. That would definitely play into the breakaway's hands. But there is a chance, a slight chance, a small chance, but there definitely is one. And Yetzebol can play on the fact that they do have a man in the breakaway who is only 6 seconds down. And that is Mr. Piccolo, Andrea Piccolo. He's from EF Education, so he has a chance, if they stay away, to be able to put himself into that jersey into the red jersey, and let's not forget with those bonus seconds on the top of the climb, 6 seconds, and then on the finish line itself with another 10 seconds to be won if you're first across it. That yes, he does have a good chance, but it's going to be an almighty ask, because with Movistar on equal time to most of the DSM riders, I'm sure that they'll want to get into that jersey as well, being at their own home Grand Tour. The sponsor would absolutely love it, and I'm sure the riders would as well.
It's a great reminder, Sean. There is a finish line before we get to the finish line, and look what's happened to Evenepoel here. There's been a split on the descent. I'm hoping that there hasn't been any incident which has caused that. The kind of feeling that there might be. It's been a long descent. We're on a flat section right now, but Evenepoel is out of position here in a third group. I don't know how big that group is. We've not seen pictures of it yet, Sean.
Well, we did see just a little flash there of Evenepoel with some of his teammates on the road there, and we can see he's down quite a bit on the main part of the peloton. But I don't think he'll be concerned the way the peloton is riding. They're just keeping control of the breakaway, and the team, DSM, are doing a very good job here. So unless there was a problem with Remco Evenepoel there on the descent, which we have had nothing on at the moment, but we have to wait and see. He's quite a bit down on the main peloton of all the other favourites.
Might have stopped to put his rain jacket on.
Simple as.
Yeah, I mean, the peloton doesn't look like it's going absolutely flat out, does it? The team have obviously all dropped back to here, but Remco doesn't look stressed. The team doesn't look too stressed either, so I can imagine it was mechanical or something as simple as stopping and putting a rain jacket on the descent. I mean, if you look at his body language, he looks fairly relaxed still, doesn't he?
Do you know, Adam, I think you're absolutely right. I was looking at his kit earlier, and he's certainly darkened down, which might suggest, actually, that he's getting himself armed up and lethal for a little bit later on.
Yeah, I think Remco today, this finish suits him down to the ground. He's got a fast little sprint on him. He's good on the steep climbs, from winning Liège a couple of times. And with that plateau, just after the top drops down slightly, if he's got a little gap on the top of that climb, he's able to take them sprints. That short distance to finish suits him quite well. So, yeah, I'm sure that he'll try and mop up a few more points today, because he's one of the better placed GC riders in that time gap at the minute. So for him to extend this lead with a relatively short and easy effort for him, I'm sure he'd take that chance.
It's a good point, Sean, and it's a chance that he's going to be willing to take, because he's won in Catalonia, of course, beat Primož Roglic on the final stage. I know we did more laps then. However, confidence is bred by good results. You must know this. And Remco would have actually targeted this stage and thought, you know what, I can do something here.
Yes, a little about it. I know.
All right, quite a bit.
Thanks, Carlton. But no, I think this is a situation. Remco was giving out yesterday and immediately after the finish, and then today he's going to go into a battle there, and that's what we're talking about. It's been talked a lot, but I wonder, will he really push on here? That is the question, because other riders are going to say to the teams, well, yesterday they were giving out about the conditions, today you want to races, and there's some of the guys here that will not want to race in the end. As we see with Vingegaard, he was moving about and trying to talk to some of the other big favourites to win this race outright. So it's going to be a complicated one in that situation, and if he does go for it and take some time, well then they'll be saying, well, yesterday you weren't happy with the situation, today you want to races and try and take time from us. So, that discussion will go on.
We're going to be hearing from Remco Evenepoel. We spoke to him before we mounted today. He's in a better mood, I think. And you said yesterday, Sean, that once he actually takes account of how the day has panned out, and in fact where Soudal Quickstep, they had the most difficult conditions. It was dark for them, darker than anyone else. They were last as defending champion off the start ramp. They did a fantastic job compared to an awful lot of the GC favourites. So I think he will have actually put that into his mind and finally realised that actually, all things considered, they did a very good job yesterday.
Well, they did a real good job, because finishing that 6 seconds down, considering they went late with the other teams getting out earlier. But again, Movistar, they had to start quite late as well, so they were in pretty much the same conditions, and they did a a real big performance yesterday. I was surprised that they did a big one, because Enric Mas, in the Tour of France, he had that crash in the first stage down in the Basque Country. I thought they would be playing it very safe yesterday, but not at all, because the ride that they put in yesterday in the conditions, they had to really take a lot of risk. But Evenepoel, 6 seconds, that's nothing. And when you look down through the GC standings, you look at Ineos, Geraint Thomas 20 seconds, you look at Vlasov 28 seconds, and then you look at Roglic and Vingegaard 32 seconds. I don't think there's any major concern for any of those guys yesterday. You'd like maybe not to lose as much against some of the guys, but again, when you look at the situation, the treacherous conditions out there, to get through yesterday without any injuries and coming down, hitting the deck, I think that was a big thing as well, and not to lose a huge amount of time as well. That would have been, I think, a success for a lot of the teams here. But we've seen the team getting back here. They've been working on it quite a lot here to get Remco back into condition, into the position he was in, but they're not in any panic here at the moment.
I think it's what Adam was saying. I think it was just about comfort for deeper in the race. He's got a very technical looking kit on, I must admit, and they're catching other riders as well who may well have done exactly the same thing, and maybe some comfort breaks along the way, so no panic for Remco Evenepoel. Let's hear from him speaking at the beginning of the day.
In this weather, it's easier to calm down. How did you calm down already after yesterday night?
Yes.
How do you look back on yesterday?
I didn't see anything, so I don't know what happened yesterday.
I mean, that was quite a dangerous situation. That's what you're trying to state, right? How did the team or the other riders react on that?
I think everybody supported what I said. I mean, if you see the situation or the circumstances that DSM could ride in and that we had to ride in, it's a complete difference. So it's already a big miracle that we only lose 6 seconds in a poor visibility. I mean, how you call it? Visibility like we had. So just a shame, just a pity that the race is affected like with the light. Weather you cannot change. Everybody had some rain. Okay, the guys in the start had a bit more comfortable roads because we really had like seas over the roads. So it was very dangerous. But yeah, it's how it is. It's a new day.
Rider security is a big issue right now today as well. So they try to stop the timing already at the top of the climb. Do you think that's going to make a huge difference?
No, it's makes no sense actually. We asked to take the time at the start of the circuit, but they completely ignored it. They blew off that request. So I feel after yesterday, the bunch deserves a bit more respect from the organization. But it looks like they are still not listening to us. So, yeah, another day in paradise.
I do love listening to Remco Evenepoel because there's a searing nature to him, Adam, that is admirable, I think. He speaks his mind. I like that.
He does speak his mind, yeah, but he also picks carefully. He takes a little time to think about what he's going to say, and I like that about him. But I love that he's outspoken. I love that he says what he thinks. And he's not really worried about the backlash, but he's a very intelligent young man as well in what he says, and he was quite right in terms of speaking about DSM there at the finish yesterday. If you look at the pictures of them coming in and you look at the pictures of Soudal Quickstep coming in, one is basically in the day, the other's basically in the night. DSM still did have a lot of rain, so they did a fantastic job to win, but definitely different circumstances for Soudal Quickstep than DSM. But like Remco said, it was a miracle that they were able to finish with only 6 seconds down. So, yeah, I like Remco. He seems like he's maturing quite a lot, and I'm still happy that he speaks his mind about things and doesn't hold back too much. I think it's good.
Me too. Sometimes, Sean, just a straight, honest answer is a great one. Not brilliant if the answer is just yes or no, but which made me chuckle a moment ago. But nonetheless, you always get a straight point from Remco Evenepoel, and as Adam says, well considered.
Yes, well, it's always been the case, and we know from the beginning, the moment he came in from the junior ranks into the World Tour teams, always, speaks his mind, and sometimes it doesn't go down very well, but that's the character of the rider, and that's the way he is. And yesterday there when he came in, we could see the moment he just got his foot out of the pedal. He was giving out and looking up at the sky, and a lot of words coming out which we cannot repeat. But
well,
that
could,
is,
but you wouldn't be lasting long. But
that is Remco Evenepoel, and he's always been like that. And I think he has matured a bit as well, but still very outspoken. And you have to agree with him yesterday, because the conditions there were treacherous. And yeah, you have to agree with him. Why was it not run off early in the day when the light was going to be much better? TV coverage, all of that, I suppose that comes into it. Road closure as well during the day, maybe a bit more difficult. So there's a lot of things to consider for the organisation as well. But at the end of the day, safety is so important, and we talk so much about that. And that was really a treacherous one. And then when the light is not great at the time the last teams went out, it makes it more of a problem again. So, but the organisers, we did hear from the race organisers there, it was a difficult one, and it was something you don't expect here in Barcelona at this time of year. Good weather, nice sunny evening. It should have been the case, but unfortunately you can't control the weather.
No, you can't. Adam, did you ever ride Montjuic as part of your career?
I don't think so, no. Not that I can remember. I'm sure I'd remember it, but I like to forget all climbs. Carl, I seem to do that quite well. So no, I can't remember doing it.
Oh well, it's quite a spike, and Sean, it's very much a it's taken in multiples during the Tour of Catalonia. We're only going to do it once today, but a lot of riders here will be very familiar with it.
Yes, there will be. Although the Tour of Catalonia is a different situation. It's the end of a week-long race. A lot of riders, would be feeling the effects at that time of year as well. Early season, maybe riders are not in their best shape, so you finish with that, build-up of fatigue after a week of racing. Here, it's the very beginning of the race, so all riders are going to be fresh. And the punchers or the sprinters that you talk about, like a Coquard, for example, he is going to be really up for today, because he's very, very fresh at this point in the race. So that will change everything here at the end of this stage. So it's going to be a bit a different one. And again, you have a lot of the GC teams wanting to control here, because they want to keep their men in the front. So that will be a complicated one to stay in a good position. And the pace could be very, very fast in the final to get into a position, and that will all have a bearing who's going to be there for the fight for the stage victory at the end of today.
Well, could be complicated. The weather will be that ultimate, I think, wild card that's going to have to be played today. But there'll be a few teams that have to make amends when they possibly can. There'll be some that targeted today. There'll be others, of course, that are very much looking forward to tomorrow in the run to Andorra. I'm hoping the weather picks up for that. Let's be optimistic, shall we? 5 up the road. It's and here back with Evenepoel. Still no stress. In fact, he's let his teammates go.
He's been off the back for a long time, though, Carlton. I mean, it's been 10k.
It has.
Just cruising round here, and he's losing teammates. They're doing a team time trial up the road. He's following another Trek rider. There's taking your time, and then there's taking your time.
He's actually like a quick change artist here, Adam. If he did go back for a rain cape, he's giving it back in.
Yeah, I think he took that off earlier. The previous shot we got, he's taken that off about 2-3 Ks ago, but he's still not back in the bunch. I mean, yeah, but he's just not in a rush whatsoever.
Is he in a moody?
I have no idea, Carlton. Probably not. Knowing Remco, he's probably just thinking, I just don't want to waste any energy and just take my time. I've got the full team in front of me, so there's no stress. They're not riding too hard at the minute, but yeah, it's odd that someone takes this long to get back into the peloton.
Well, within himself then, with 84.8 kilometres to go. There's our leader. Came as a surprise to them, Sean, but they may well have a mind to keep hold of it. They've got the capability, and some riders to do so.
Yes, I think they're doing the job that the team of the race leader have to do here, and also they're thinking the GC standings, the riders they have up there in that top of the rankings, they can stay, to the very front of the race in this final. So it's not that they're concerned about Milesi, that he might have a bit of difficulty getting up this climb. The other riders are there to take over, so they're controlling well. And 152 at the moment. Like, it's nothing with 84 kilometres to go. Unless there's, a problem with the weather conditions in the end, this breakaway I don't think will have a chance of staying out there, and it's going to be, back in the peloton where the battle will be for the stage win, and possibly a change in the overall standings, and who that will be. It looks like it should be, another DSM rider, unless some of the guys in the GC standings start to go for the time bonuses there in the end, and that could be a one which would change the situation totally. But DSM are really the ones who are in the control of this race for today, I would think.
Well, I've looked at the weather as well coming into this finish. It looks like it's going to be like this pretty much all the way down there now. I might be wrong. Some weather apps are different, but it doesn't look like they're going to get any more rain until they get to the finish line. I'll double, triple check it on some of the other weather apps, or wait till Robin McEwen gets on, our weather expert.
Yeah, and he was giving lots of showers, all day showers.
Yeah, might have blown over, Sean.
Never know. Oscar Onley has got a chance today for DSM. In the Crow race last year, finishes with very sort of peaky stage into Labin, and he was only beaten by Jonas Vingegaard and Mate Mohoric. You get the idea. Albanese was behind him, quite a few other very big names. Omar Freire, who should thrive in this kind of terrain as well, was well beaten. Oscar Onley might well be the secret card for Team DSM. I would love to see the Kelso Comet do a job today. It can happen. Great rider, part of a team that leads this race at the moment with 83 kilometres to go. Just been speculating as to who from DSM might have a chance today. They all have, of course, depending on the weather. Adam's just reminding us that some weather apps are predicting that it stays pretty much like this today. It seems then that the storms that were heavily predicted for today came early, which is with the problem yesterday. While some of you have been away as well, we've been just pondering as to why it's taken Remco Evenepoel such a long time to get himself back into the peloton. He's through the cars now, so should be there.
I've just been updated on one of our WhatsApp groups, one of many. There was 15 punctures on the downhill, including Remco and Geraint Thomas. So it missed out on those images. They weren't given to us by the looks of things, but yeah, that will explain why.
But how do you explain 15 punctures? I mean, I hope it's nothing untoward. We've had silliness in the past. Could it just be the gravel, for example, Adam?
Let's hope it's the gravel cart, and that's an unusual amount. So yeah, let's hope it's a gravel and not some twit out there throwing tacks down on the road or something.
Yes, I think the third letter there was well chosen. 82.2 kilometres to go, minute and 52, and still they're doing a great job through the tidy zone here. Alpecin yesterday, just constantly reminding ourselves of who went well. Those who went off early had something of an advantage. Arkea Samsic did not have a good run at all, I'm afraid. A minute and 18 down. Little Trek, to be honest, I was expecting a bit more from them, but clearly badging themselves up as those who are going to take care, and indeed those who are going to try and get something out of this race as the deeper we go into it. Jaco Alula, Sean, almost the entire team came down for them. Some really unkind pictures on social media, which really underscored what a difficult day it was, but particularly for Jaco.
Yes, well, we did not get the pictures live there with the Jaco, and there was a lot of the riders went down in one of the corners, and that really just knocked them back and lost a lot of time. And then in the end we see Eddie Dunbar going a bit too strong just in that final corner where there was a lot of crashes, and he went down, but he was back on his bike so quickly, losing very little time. But there was so many riders had mechanical problems, and we did not see that yesterday, and a lot went on that we did not get footage of at all, and it hampered some of the riders and some of the teams as well. We heard Philip Ogana, he had a flat tyre. We heard Vingegaard had to make a bike change. We see some footage of that later. So all of that affected the time at the end of some of the teams. But It wasn't surprising when we see the way the weather was getting as it went further into the evening. The water and the rain was just pouring down, and so much surface water out there. It was a real complicated day.
Well, keep your fingers crossed then. We're on a long reach at the moment, but as you can see, there's plenty of high ground for us to play with. The Montana de Montserrat, absolutely beautiful. Limestone outcrops as part of this natural park that we are indeed skirting around as we head back towards the great city of Barcelona. Shame we didn't see it at its best yesterday. Got an interview coming up for you right now as we continue our run around the limestone outcrops here.
Jonas, a few hours after the first stage of this Vuelta España, what are your reflections on this first day?
Yeah, I think we can be happy with how we did compared to that we had a puncture. I think regarding safety is something different, of course. I think it was way too late yesterday to race. It was dark and basically we couldn't see anything. So yeah, I mean, that's something I think they could do better from the organization.
Were you concerned about this before starting the stage, that it was going to be dark?
Yeah, not before, but as time was going and we started warming up, you could kind of see that it was getting darker. So at that point we started worrying a bit, and yeah, by the end it was kind of almost completely dark. And when we had to go back to the bus in traffic, it was also completely dark. And yeah, I think in my opinion that's not good enough.
And today we have the rain since the very beginning of the morning. What do you expect for today? Because the organization already said that it's the times for the GC are going to neutralize in Montjuic, but still bonus seconds on the finish line.
Yeah, but I don't think that will make a change. Then you better have it on the finish line, because going to Montjuic is also really tricky. So I think to make a difference there, you have to do it before. And I think, I don't know if it's the organization or whoever it is, but they seem like they don't care about our safety at all.
Do you know how the road is going to be today?
Yeah, they say that normally it's super slippery there, so that's also going to be tricky.
Let's hope everyone stays safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, cold words calmly delivered there, I think, from Jonas Vingegaard, saying that the organisers don't care about them at all. The organisers, you have to say, Sean, they want a good show just as much as everybody else.
Of course they do. They want, a real show here, and starting out the Vuelta, that's what they want here. But again, we heard from Vingegaard there, the safety is so important, and if the organisers push it a bit too much, then they will turn off some of the riders maybe coming back to the race, and that's something as well. You have to get that balance, and I think taking the time now, of course, is 9 kilometres from the finish. It was earlier on the top of the Montjuic climb. That's where they were going to take the time for the GC. But again, the bonuses are still out there, time bonuses. That is the concern for the riders, and that's where it's going to create a lot of problems here. If there's some of the GC men want to continue, stay in the front of the race and to have a go for the time bonus at the top of Montjuic and maybe at the finish, then it's not a clear one. Where if you say 9 kilometres, the time is taken, there's no bonuses, so a GC man, he can just cruise up Montjuic, and the riders who want to go for the stage, and if a GC man want to go for the stage, he can go for it, but he doesn't gain any time on the other big contenders here time wise. He gets his stage victory, of course, and that would be very, very clear. So that is where the problem is lying here.
2 minutes and 5, they're just coming through the feed, or at least plenty are taking it on board. That's declared as the end of the feed, so it looks like not too many have taken the official feed here, but have possibly fed themselves at other points. You saw that Remco Evenepoel finally got himself back within the pack, so I guess gently does it. He'd done the proper job. Francis Richard sent a very young team to this race, and yesterday, Adam, they Groupama, with their young profile, it's almost like they, I think we said it as we were commentating, they kind of not exactly threw caution to the wind, but they had that youthful belief in themselves, and they did a very good run.
Yeah, they did indeed. They had a very good run, and I think, youth probably shining through there a little bit as well. They've taken a few more risks, not being too worried about the rain, and just getting stuck in and having a good go at it. And yeah, they got a very good result. 5th, only 6 seconds back, just behind Lotto Soudal, right on the millisecond. So yeah, they did a very good time indeed. And I'm sure they're looking forward to today, because they are also very close to getting themselves in that red jersey, only 6 seconds behind.
Roman Gregoire has been picked a lot, Adam, by many. I think Dan Lloyd may well have actually badged him up as a choice for today, and that would be a big noise from Groupama. He's starting to make one, isn't he?
He is, yeah. It would be any stage in a Grand Tour is a great result, but yeah, for a young man, only 20 years of age, to go for a stage winner, to be able to get it, that would be something indeed. So yeah, we'll see what happens though, because I'm sure with these bonus seconds, we know from in the past that the likes of Primož Roglic has ridden Grand Tours and being able to catch bonus seconds at the line, and that's really helped him later on in the Grand Tours. And I'm sure for the small effort these riders are going to have to make today to try and get those bonus seconds, we might see a few of the GC guys going for that, especially we know time gaps being given after 9 kilometres to go, which is I'm not saying it's a shame now, but as you can see, roads are pan dry. I've heard for one of our men on the ground, Doug, that it is bone dry at the finish as well, not raining.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Because earlier on we saw that it looked like they were going to have to get the fire services in just to clear the last 500 metres. So that's a relief. Doug Ferguson, one of our producers, on site for us. Good to hear from him. 82 kilometres from home and 2 minutes and 5. Sean, this is holding steady. They're obviously giving this breakaway a lot of respect. They don't want to give them too much.
No, they haven't given them, that big advantage at all right through the day, and they continue on just to keep control of it here. And 81.7 kilometres to go, 2 minutes and 8. It's all in control here for the team, DSM, and the race leader. And this is going to be an interesting one now. Those guys. What sort of battle will they be able to put up in the end? That is the question. Will they be able to really kick on when they get to that maybe 50 kilometres to go? But I think back in the peloton it will get hyper nervous, because they'll be all thinking about keeping the position as you get into this
even with that lovely
stage.
9-kilometre rule, Sean, to keep them all safe?
Well, I think everybody will be concerned, if the weather conditions stay dry, it will be a little bit more calm back in the peloton. But if we get those showers, well, then it will be really hyper nervous, because the wet roads again, the earlier part of a stage race, a 3-week race, it's always really nervous. And you throw in the possibility of showers, wet roads, then it will be just full on racing, 40 kilometres out, and it will just melt down that advantage to the breakaway so quickly.
Two minutes and 2, a gap holding at the moment. Teams in colour order. When you get to the beginning of a Grand Tour, Sean, there's a lot of fresh legs, there's a lot of fresh minds. We've all often said about La Vuelta that it can be a last chance saloon for some. Some who've missed out on the Tour de France have come here, those who were busy in the Giro at the beginning of the year as well. There's a danger of snatching at it. I think it was a big wake-up call for everybody, but as Adam said, with this messing around with this finish line today, I think it adds a certain amount of confusion. There'll be a lot of teams, though, that really feel motivated and have the legs to go for it. Some of the older riders will want to invest, some of the youngsters will want to make a noise. It could be chaotic today.
Yes, it could be, and for a lot of riders here and a lot of teams, to get a stage win here in the Vuelta, it would be a major one for them. And riders maybe who haven't signed a contract for next year get a good performance here. That could be their way to signing a new contract. And with the confusion here as well, the GC men, how many of the GC men will go for it? Will any of them go for it in the end? That gives the opportunity. Some of the other riders will say, well, I have a good chance here maybe of going for the stage win if the big men do not contest it in the final. So all of that will play in the end. But that is something you have to just, get into your position there with the team and see what's happening, see who is going for it. And it's just going to play out in the very, very end. And that, with the 9 kilometres to go, you're so close to the finish then, you have to be in that real good position. And it is going to be a one which riders we'll just not know what's happening. You just have to watch and stay there in a good position. To stay there in the good position, if it's dry roads, okay, but if it gets wet, well, then it's going to be a one where there's going to be a lot of risk taken on.
Just as a note, our distance to the finish has been stuck at 81.7 for a long, long time. I've got a feeling that ticker... Oh, there we go. May well actually be in error. I don't know how far we've got to go. We're at the Parc Naturel de Montserrat. So, tell you...
In between 70k to go, Carlton, and... Sorry, 79k's to go and 50k's to go. Let's give that a shot. Somewhere in between.
There we are. Somewhere around that margin, we believe. So it's probably a very good time for us to welcome Dan Lloyd into the commentary position. Because basically, geography-wise, I don't know where we are, apart from the Parc de Montserrat. So...
I understand we're around 76k's to go.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Dan.
Well.
That's very precise.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hello.
I'm looking forward to this.
Well, so am I.
At the end.
Have you gone for... who's your pick for today, by the way, before I head off for a sandwich?
Well, I was third pick on our breakaway predictions, and I went for Romain Grégoire from Palmer FDJ.
Adam, have you got a view?
I've gone for Remco.
Brilliant. I'm going for Brian Coquard. I know it's crazy, but it's a crazy day. So I'm hoping that works out.
Who's Sean gone for?
Sean?
Well, I haven't made my pick, but yeah, it's...
if you can find a hedge, you'll find Sean's bets in there.
It's a very, very difficult one, but yeah, it's, there's so many riders in here thinking, what's going to be happening at the end of this one. Will the big riders go for it in the end? Will they want to take that risk? The weather conditions, that will also make the decision for a lot of the riders as well, how much risk you're going to take. But yeah, a guy like Ayuso, I think he's a rider who can get through there, and yeah, I think it's like the Grand National. You just have to put the pin in the back end,
the one whose name you like the look of the most. This is my technique for the Grand National.
I'll see you in a bit, fellas. You got Robbie coming, I understand, so Sean will take a bow as well.
Thank you very much, Carlton Kirby and Sean Kelly, who you'll be hearing from again for the last 40 kilometres of today's opening road stage of the Vuelta a España. Just under 182 kilometres was the original distance. It was shortened just a little bit at the very beginning due to dangerous roads, and the time, as Carlton said, for the GC is going to be taken with 9 kilometres remaining, so before they hit the final circuits around Barcelona. However, they have kept in the bonus seconds at 2 points. At the top of the final climb, which is a third category at Montjuic, 6, 4 and 2 bonus seconds available there, and again at the finish line, 10, 6 and 4 bonus seconds. So the talk of the town, so to speak, has been that the 9 kilometre rule really makes no difference to the racing that we are expecting to see today, because that's a lot of bonus seconds up for grabs for the general classification riders. Graphic is back up, 72 kilometres to go, 1 minute and 55 seconds now the time gap between our 5 leaders and this main peloton containing the red jersey of Milesi behind. Welcome aboard, Robbie McEwen. How are you?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm very well, thanks. Today it's been a lot easier to get myself going as opposed to yesterday, although I did maybe give myself a bit of assistance with a little caffeine drink, which is better than the way I got myself going last night by dropping my phone on my foot from a great height. Also kept me awake.
For those who don't know, Robbie is commentating remotely from his home in Australia. What was the technique? So yesterday you had an early alarm. Have you gone through the night today, or have you been to sleep?
Yeah, I've gone through the night, so I'll go right through to the finish today, and I'm going to get myself right in the rhythm of the Vuelta a España.
Perfect.
Ole.
Tell you what, Robbie doesn't half look comfortable though, does he? Just there in his home, he's got the hoodie on, he's got a chair that's basically leans back so far, it's a bed. If he leans back anymore, he won't be able to see his screen. Beautiful.
I'm just leaning back far enough so I can't see you.
Well, I wish the viewers could see this. He's leaning back far enough that we can see his lovely framed leaders' jerseys behind.
That's also true.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the show-off room I'm sitting in.
So what are we thinking about this time gap? One thing to consider with this 9-kilometre rule which they've come up with today is that in order for DSM to give themselves the best chance of keeping the red jersey on the shoulders of one of their riders, they need to bring this breakaway back before 9 kilometres to go. Is it in hand, Robbie?
Unless
Yes.
one of them gets bonus
Well, true.
seconds.
True, but I think, yes, it's in hand. It is in hand. A minute 50 with 70 to go. They've kept it on a pretty tight leash all day long. Normally you'd expect on day one of a major tour, a group of 5 might get out to 5, 6, 7 minutes. They've had nothing like that. I think that just shows the nerves and uncertainty about what's to come. You know, the clock being stopped for general classification at 9k to go, but bonus is still up for grabs, and then the ever-present threat of rain moving in. There's showers in the air in the region, but it looks like it's going to stay dry. But you can't trust anything. So I think just that apprehensiveness of all the circumstances is just making the peloton keep this break pretty close, and then we'll catch them.
It's not just stretched out, is it? There's some gaps opening up, so DSM having to keep the pace right up. It strikes me that today's 5-man breakaway has not ridden in a sort of coy way. They're not mucking about around out there. They're trying to go as hard as they possibly can from start to finish, really put the pressure on Team DSM in the hope that they have enough time towards the end to go for the stage victory. They're not just cruising along, just keeping the gap stable at a minute and 52-minute marker and assuming that Team DSM will ride at the same speed. They're just trying to go as hard as they can and see what they can do by the finish line today. And there are those 2 finish lines that we keep talking about. But it's going to be a very interesting finale, whatever happens, with those bonus seconds still on offer. Lots of speculation as to whether the big-name general classification riders, the likes of Evenepoel, Roglic, Vingegaard, Mas, etc., got together and said, look, the bonus seconds might still be on offer, but we're not going to race for them. We'll let the guys that are going for the stage win, those willing to take the risk, go for it, but the rest of us, we shouldn't race because we want to be in this for the full 3 weeks, not just for the first 2 days. But it only takes one rider of those big names, of those potential GC winning candidates to go for it, and the rest are going to have to follow suit. So we'll see what happens once we get back in towards Barcelona and the intriguing finale that we have before us today.
It's raining in Barcelona as well now. We have got spots on the ground. We've seen dry roads, but you can see there from the shot from Castroviejo, just off the back of the peloton, rain on the lens of the camera, and he looked to be taking it very cautiously down that descent. He wasn't going down it too quickly with as they do in the dry, so the weather is probably only going to get worse now for these riders.
Well, there's quite a large sort of shower hovering just south of Barcelona along the coast back towards Tarragona, and the race is down in that direction, so it is possible they'll catch the edge of that system, but hopefully for the riders they'll race back from underneath it and back into dry conditions. Like you said, Dan, it's only going to take one rider of the pre-race favourites for GC to make any sort of move. In fact, might not even have to be an attack, just any of them twitches, stands up out of the saddle for just a second, could be enough to just ignite things. And as we were speculating earlier, that Remco saying, it should be neutralised and take the time earlier, and I can just imagine Remco, once he gets the race number on and unveiled and it comes into the final, that red mist descends in front of his eyes, and there's not much going to hold him back. And I think if anybody who's a top 20 or so contender on GC makes so much as a blink twitch that they're going to go, I think Remco's going to say, that's enough for me, I'm going to go because he started it.
We did ask, or at least I did, in our big commentators WhatsApp group earlier on this morning when we found out about the rule changes, which GC rider each of us thought might go for it. And Robbie was very quick to say Remco. He'll go for it no matter what at the end of today. The time gap continues to go in the right direction for Team DSM and the wrong direction for our breakaway riders, who I will go through with you right now. Representing Caja Rural is the 25-year-old Joel Nicolau, riding his first Grand Tour here at the Vuelta España. Been with that team since 2020. It's quite a local rider, actually. He comes from Jujueo, which is quite near Girona on the coastline, so less than 100 kilometres from parts of today's route. Jetzer Bol, the most experienced man in our 5-man lead group, riding for Burgos BH, 33 years of age now, the Dutchman. No stranger to breakaways, as many of you will know here at La Vuelta a España. In fact, he came very close to winning one, didn't he, a few years back? In the end, his teammate Angel Madrazo took victory at the Havalambre Observatory back in 2019, which is a climb that is again going to feature in this race this year. Javier Romo of Astana, 24-year-old from Spain. 3rd year as a pro rider. He's in the sort of turquoise blue but fairly flowery kit for Astana at this Vuelta, as it was for the Tour de France. 7th overall recently at the Vuelta a Burgos, so clearly a man on great form. Sobrero, the Italian from Jaco Alula, and Piccolo, another Italian, 22 from EF, also up the road. Let's hear from Geraint Thomas, though.
Well, the decision to take the time at the Montjuic today, what's your thought on that?
I don't think it changes much at all. I think, you know, when you enter that circuit, we saw a video this morning and it's crazy, you know, left, right, whatever, and we all saw how slippery the roads are because it hasn't rained here for so long. So, yeah, I don't think there's any sort of compromise. And after yesterday, I think the organisers sort of, there was no sort of apology or anything, and you know, we're not happy with it, but you know, we're just pawns in the game, aren't we?
Jonas Vingegaard said they might try and talk to some of you guys on the other teams about taking it easy for maybe the last 10Ks. He thought it should be neutralized for the last 10Ks.
Yeah, we totally agree. But, you know what it's like, you need a real solid agreement. Otherwise, you know, trying to do it on the road, there's no chance. You know, there's always someone that wants to go for the stage, and that we're not saying, you know, go for the stage, it's fine. You know, everyone that wants to race can race, but just take the time on the GC early. Because, yeah, we can all race flat out and then have to be at the front, and for sure something's going to happen and we may lose some GC guys, and I'm sure there's, well, losing anyone, you know. Everyone works so hard to be in top shape for a Grand Tour, and when the roads are as sketchy as they are, for me it doesn't make any sense. But
Geraint, pawns in the game, could you as riders, the group, done anything yesterday when the forecast was what it was?
Yeah, potentially, but you know what it's like, everyone still wants to race and everyone wants to hope for the best, and you don't think, I know it might just stop and it might not get so bad. But then the way it did turn out, it was crazy, especially for the last few teams. You know, they were racing in more or less darkness, you know, and we were riding back to the bus in open traffic with no lights or anything, and you know, it wasn't ideal, was it?
What did you think about what Remco said? Did you hear that?
No.
Well, he said they shouldn't have had it so late. It's not so much the rain the problem, but the timing, because these guys were finishing in the dark. They finished later than you finished.
Yeah, of course, and like there's always that risk. No one can predict the weather, you know, that's no one's fault. But yeah, just make it maybe an hour earlier. But you know, there's a lot of other things that come into it, isn't there, with TV and money and all sorts. And as I say, we're just pawns.
Pawns in the game, how Geraint Thomas has defined they as riders in this Grand Tour of the Vuelta a España and in all professional cycling races, to be quite honest. I guess what happens towards the end in terms of any potential neutralisation amongst these bigger name GC riders, it kind of depends on how you define yourself as a rider and how others define you, because you might be there as, I don't know, let's say a Hugh Carthy saying, well, I'm not really one of the big names, so I can go for it, and others are going to say, well, no, you came third on the podium of this Vuelta a few years ago, you're not allowed to race. In the end, I think we're going to have a proper race, particularly if the conditions stay as they are at the moment. We are getting news from the finish line in Barcelona that the rain has started falling there, but from what we've seen so far, Robbie, the roads and the weather hasn't been as bad as predicted.
It's been fairly kind. You know, on the other hand, to play devil's advocate, you could say, well, you know, if the weather's going to be quite good and the roads dry up, do they suddenly just turn things back around the other way and say, you know what, the weather's good, so that previous agreement is now off. You're going to race all the way to the finish line, and that's where the times will be taken. That would really throw the cat amongst the pigeons. But I mean, on the riders' side, nobody wants to see a race altered, cancelled, postponed, whatever. And they also don't want to be seen as being soft and saying, oh, it's too wet to race, or it's this or it's that, it's too hard. But the one thing that everybody agrees on is that finishing in that darkness was an absolute no.
Yeah, I also think as well that there's not just that, as Geraint pointed out in his interview there, it's the riders riding back to the team buses, roughly 6 kilometres, in Barcelona traffic. If anyone's been to Barcelona, they'll know how busy it is. In the wet, no lights on, and just amongst normal day traffic. Of course, they know how to handle the bikes and stuff, but it's quite easy for a delivery scooter or anything to come scooting out of a side street, not see the riders because they haven't got any lights on, and wipe them out. It just seems like the organisation didn't seem to be there so much yesterday, or it was, but they weren't thinking about the riders' safety in all aspects of racing in the dark, sending them back in the dark to the team buses. Yeah, not great, to be honest. And I think on today, I think they've done the right thing of putting the rule with 9k to go and giving the riders the same time. But it just goes completely against what they're trying to do by keeping the bonus seconds there. Just let it be like a one-day race where the first rider crosses the line, there's no bonus seconds, no nothing, but there's no time gaps either.
Yeah, that would make a big difference, wouldn't it?
Huge
Because
difference.
for any GC rider, if there's no bonus seconds and if the time is taken with 9 kilometres to go, there's no reason to race from that point onwards. But for everybody else that's decent on terrain like they're going to face at the end of today's stage, the stage win is still up for grabs, and so we would still have a race. So yeah, bizarre that they've kept the bonus seconds in. 61.5 kilometres to go, and the gap now down to just 1.5 minutes from the 3.5 maximum that they had. Robbie.
Oh, just talking about those bonus seconds that are still on the line, and maybe that is a ploy from the race organisation, without saying as much, to get a little bit of extra drama, a little bit of extra racing, lure somebody out with those bonus seconds still on offer, and just cause some chaos.
Just over 2/3 of the way into our opening road stage at this year's Vuelta a España, and it is not an easy one. They've already completed 2 of the 3 classified climbs today, 1 third cat, 1 second. We've got a third cat, very steep climb to come in the final few kilometres of today's stage. But if you look at the total elevation gain, close to 3,000 metres over today's 182 kilometres, so far from easy. And we've seen that in the way that this main peloton has been strung out and even detached from each other at certain points. Team DSM, well, they've got the leader's red jersey on the shoulders of Milesi there. Brilliant opening day for them. But I think perhaps, Alan, they might have hoped for an easier chase for today's breakaway than the one that they've given themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a lot harder. They were quite clever in the fact that they only let them get around 2.5 minutes. They kept that leash quite short to them. But ultimately, in these conditions, even in the roads now, we saw Castroviejo about 10 minutes ago coming onto the back of the peloton, and he was cautious down the descent. You can see the roads, the white lines still, the paint on the roads still will be slippy, and that works into the advantage of the breakaway. On each corner, the peloton can't go as quick. Leading into corner, there's a bit more safety, so it's not going to be an easy chase for them. And with only 1 day in the legs for all the riders, most of them are going to be fresh still.
What an incredible couple of days for this man. Couple of weeks, really, because he was crowned World Under-23 Individual Time Trial Champion just a couple of weeks ago in Glasgow. 5th in the Under-23 road race there. And now, leader of the Vuelta a España, his first ever Grand Tour for the 21-year-old. We were chatting in the breakaway pre-show, Robbie, that a lot of teams, they would have had a meeting in the bus to talk about how they were going to play things at the team time trial, but also in the event that they were the fastest team on the day, who was going to cross the line first. And we were saying that DSM probably weren't one of those teams, so you'd imagine Milesi was just the strongest or found himself at the front at the end of yesterday's team time trial.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because I was just about to say, do you think he was their chosen man, and was there a chosen man? And I think the same as you. They probably didn't go that far, knowing that the overwhelming favourites normally, and everybody thought so, was Jumbo-Visma, that you'd just say, listen, let's just go as fast as we can and see where we end up, rather than saying we're a player here, so make sure that so and so is at the front when we cross the line. So I think it's just a bit of serendipity that's found Milesi in the jersey. He's the youngest red jersey wearer since Miguel Indurain 25 years ago or something like that.
Good stat. I didn't see that.
Indurain was 20, I believe.
One thing I've been trying to work out is how they've attributed the King of the Mountains jersey after yesterday's team time trial.
Sponsor wanted their jersey on the road, so pull it out of a hat. Is there a green jersey out there amongst the team,
Romain
or-
Bardet is wearing the green
Bardet.
jersey.
Oh yeah, well, makes sense. Well, he was second across the line, wasn't he, in the group? So I guess it's just in the order of crossing the line. Malaysia leader, Bardet, I believe, was second across the line, green jersey. Then next in line, I suppose, got the Mountains jersey, and then whoever was in contention to be in the white jersey got that.
Yeah, Sean Flynn, we believe, is in the KOM jersey. He won't be at the end of today, incidentally. Max Poole is in the white jersey as best young rider, which he is wearing on behalf of our race leader, Milesi, the Italian rider. To bring you up to speed on the King of the Mountains situation, because I know there's a lot of racing on Discovery Plus, GSM Plus and Eurosport at the moment, so many people probably switching over to our coverage of the Vuelta now. We've had those 2 King of the Mountain points. The first one, it was Romo of Astana who took the maximum 3 points, ahead of Nicolau who took 2, and Sobrero who took a single point. At the second KOM, which was a second category, 5 points went to Sobrero, 3 to Romo for coming second. Nicolau also taking a point there at the second category climb. That puts Sobrero and Romo equal on 6 points apiece. And looking at the rule book, I think the lead of that classification then goes to the person who's won the most Especial category climbs. We've not had any of them. Then to the most first category climbs, we haven't had any of them. And then to the most second category climbs. So I am assuming that if the point standing remains as it is right now, Sobrero of Jaco Ulula will be taking a visit to the podium as the leader of the King of the Mountains classification. That assumes, of course, that they are caught before the finale, because we've got the third category climb there with just around 3 kilometres to go. That's quite the paint job on that bike, Adam. Marks out of 10?
Yeah, I'd go for a solid 8.5. Just because each and every team member's got them, haven't they? It's always a bit more special when just one rider in a team's got one. And just to know, Remco's on a new paint job as well.
Is he?
Yeah, he's got like a grey and black finish flag sort of design just around the bottom of his seat post. So yeah, looks quite nice. Yeah, nice.
I have had a message from our resident statistician Killian Kelly about the youngest rider to lead the Vuelta. You were right on one front, Robbie. It was Miguel Indurain. But you said about 25 years ago, and actually it was 38, just to make you feel a little bit older than you actually are.
Wow, the worst part of that is I remember it.
Oh dear.
Oh, is that a grey hair?
I've got many coming through, Robbie. You've got nothing to worry about.
Robbie's doing very well on the grey hair front, assuming it's natural.
It's all natural, Dan. It's all me.
That was a bit of a worry how quick that reply was there, Robbie.
No, it is all natural. They're coming, don't worry. Working with you two this year, they're coming faster than ever.
I was going to say, man, it started sprouting. Doing a good job, to be fair, to DSM here. There's only 2 of them been riding so far. You can see that Alpecin have moved up into 3rd position now, so maybe putting a rider in to help bring this time gap back.
Who do you think Alpecin would be riding for today?
Gaze.
Sam Gaze?
I did think about him, but I'm just not... His credentials on the road, he's coming off a really successful Worlds on the mountain bike where he won the short track, second in the cross country. But they do believe that Groves can get over this climb around Montjuic and still be there at the finish.
Okay.
For a guy that looks so solid and is so fast, he's pretty handy uphill. Really explosive.
We saw that at the Giro d'Italia, didn't we? He was making some decent selections on the tougher climbing stages, and of course took a win there as well. Yeah, worth a mention is Sam Gaze. As Robbie was just talking about, very successful Glasgow UCI World Championships for him, off-road. He doesn't do many days of road racing, does Sam Gaze, but silver medalist in the elite race and a gold medalist in the marathon. Is that correct, Robbie?
Sprint race, he got a gold medal, and the cross country, he was second behind Pidcock.
But the reason I was thinking of him as an outside possibility for today is that if you look at the general sort of physiology of mountain bike riders. They're generally good at these short, punchy climbs, like we're going to see at the finish today. I was also thinking about a wet circuit, you know, bike handling skills, that he might well be up there. So Robbie thinks that they are trying to work today for their sprinter Caden Groves. They believe he can get over this final climb and sprint for victory at the end, but Sam Gaze might be given a little bit of freedom to go for his own result as well. We shall wait and see.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to try and have both of them up there. Obviously, Gaze maybe then to do the leader if they're both there. And if Groves is not and Gaze remains, then he gets to go for his own chance. But of course, it all depends how hard that they tackle that final climb. It is a real kicker. We see it, don't we, in the Tour of Catalunya early in the season at the end of March. It is pretty tough, but it's not long. And of course, in that race, they do lap after lap after lap. It starts to take its toll. Everybody just oops. And now it catapults back in the peloton, that bidon. So it wasn't a good throw. Well, that climb is they do it repetitively in Catalunya. Now it's just once, so I think there'll be a lot more survivors.
I don't necessarily think the climb will obviously be influential into this finish, but the lead into this climb is going to be the big thing for these riders. There's a bridge that we highlighted in our pre-breakaway show for today's stage, and it is very, very narrow indeed, and just the corners after that before the lead into the climb, the riders are going to be, if you want to contest these bonus sprints for the finish line today, you're going to have to be right at the front, 9Ks to go before that, and then all the way until 4Ks to go, 3.5Ks to go. You've barely got a bit of straight road. For the riders that do want to tackle it, for the likes of Sam Gaze as well being right up there, for the other riders that have a worse position leading into that, they've got a lot bigger effort they'll have to make on the climb than the riders at the front. So I just think this fight to be at the front, you can almost make your life a lot easier if you want to get these bonus second stage or the stage win if you're in a good spot.
Interesting that Roglic is right at the front in that trio of yellow and black Jumbo-Visma riders. Hessing coming up to join in as well, but we saw a few moments ago Jonas Vingegaard hovering towards the back with a couple of his teammates, including the Hungarian champion Attila Valter. If you're rejoining us, a warm welcome back. Looks like there's a bit of fighting for positioning going on here, Adam.
Probably because of this.
Because of the
rain's
weather,
falling.
the roads.
Both. The rain's falling, they are going downhill. And on roads like this, you can see the side of the road there. When the rain falls, dirt coming onto the roads as well. And as we all know, and we've mentioned, that there's not been a lot of rain for a long, long time in this area. So the roads will be very greasy, very slippery. So being at the front, as we all know, is the safest place to be.
Well, we've talked about some of our favourites and indeed outsiders. These are who some of our experts have gone for. Gregoire twice, the young Frenchman from Groupama FDJ. 2 going for Primoz Roglic. And Robbie going for Andrea Baggioli, which is a different pick to what he had on our pre-stage breakaway predictions. Who did you go for on that, Robbie?
Little rascal.
Well, I had 4 riders I liked. As I guess you could call them a little bit outsiders. Baggioli was one. I thought I'll go for him with my predictor because I didn't want to give away my pick in our breakaway predictor competition, where I went for Hugo Page from Intermarché. Second early in the year in the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race, and he's been performing really well recently. And I just like the fact that he can get over a tough little climb, and he's got a pretty fast finish as well. Others are like, of course, Brian Coquart. If he's bringing his Tour de France form, he's a really good chance today as well.
Tell you what, Remco looks good at the front, though, didn't he? Second into that corner then.
He was your pick, was he, Adam?
Oh, yeah, he was, yeah. Now you mention it, Dan, yeah. I just think this finish suits him, doesn't it, really? I mean, short, steep, a little bit of a plateau at the top, slight downhill. He's got a fast little kick on him, and he just loves bike racing, doesn't he? He puts a number on, and it's hard to hold him back. So today, I do think that he'll go for it.
Well, we're going to hear now from the man that 2 of our experts predicted for stage success today. It's Romain Grégoire.
Romain, une journée humide qui s'annonce et votre nom qui revient beaucoup.
Romain, it's going to be a wet day, and your name is often mentioned amongst the contenders for the stage win. Is this a stage you've set your sights on for the start of this Vuelta? Yes, of course. There won't be 15 punchy finishes like this on the race, so there's a good one today. In any case, we have to try. How are you going to race in conditions like this with the nervousness that's going to be in the peloton? Well, because there's a lot of talk about Montjuic and a punchy finish, it will be nervous, yes, but you're going to have to get there with just 3 kilometres to go, and there will be a lot of roundabouts beforehand, as well as a lot of technical sections and winding downhill. So with the rain, it's likely to be a mess. We're going to have to avoid crashes, avoid gaps, and race as far forward as we can. Asked what difference it's going to make with the rule changes. Not sure. Still a lot of bonification at the 3 kilometres to go at the top of the Montjuic. The favourites are likely to go for it, and if they're in the match of victory at that point, I'd be surprised if they got back on their feet at that point as well. I think most of them will be in the match and won't make much difference in the end. It can also make riders a little nervous because of the technical descent afterwards for those who want to win the stage. He says yes, that's going to take some of the nerves away if there are 2 or 3 who are a bit restrained, but in any case it's going to be dangerous and it's going to be nervous. Apologies for the late translation of that. He spoke far quicker than I was expecting. He'll be hoping to go that quick at the finish line today. But a decent pick for today's stage win. He's in his first year as a professional rider, Romain Grégoire, doing his first Grand Tour. But he's got 5 professional wins to his name already, and those who followed the junior ranks and the under-23s will be well aware of how long we've known that Grégoire is a super talent within cycling, and already proving himself within the pro ranks this year. At least I think he's a first-year professional. I might have to double-check that now.
Well, speaking of long, that's a long driveway up to that house on the left-hand side. Just gone out of shot now.
You can see why they were fighting for this road, Robbie, can't you? It's sinuous.
Yep. Twisting and turning, and I think those splits that we saw just a little while ago happened because of the similar sort of twisting roads that they had, and just a matter of someone losing the wheel and suddenly had groups all over the place. But Dan, yes, this is Romain Grégoire's first year in the World Tour. He was on the Continental FDJ team last year.
He was a prolific winner as a junior, I seem to remember, Romain Grégoire, but we're becoming accustomed to seeing riders that are incredibly talented juniors come into the pro ranks at a young age and start winning immediately, and he is no exception. But it would be exceptional if he took today's stage win. The one thing that you could say for him and a number of other riders is that he's not here for GC. He's here to take stage wins. So of a lot of the riders here, there are some that aren't going to want to take risks at the end. But here's one, Adam, that will be willing to take risks to go for the stage victory today.
Yes, definitely. Ooh, hello. You can just see how wet the corners are getting on this now, and that's probably why there is a fright to the front. But yeah, he will be willing to take risks, that's for sure. And along with a lot of other riders as well, even with this rule, it doesn't change a lot for the riders that want just the stage win or even want to get time today. On a climb like this, the GC riders, I don't think, would get more than what the bonuses on offer are available. So for them anyway, they're going to have to go full gas. They're going to have to be in the right position. So it's not really changed a lot, and the riders we're expecting to see at the front, the riders that are just going for the stage win and that are going for bonus seconds, they're all going to be there. So it's going to be hard fought coming into this finish and at the finish.
Real shame for the organisation that the weather has been as it has for the last couple of days. Although, thinking about it positively, at least we're no longer in the heat wave. 40 degrees and upwards are some of the temperatures that have been recorded in this region over the last couple of weeks. So I think that was probably the main concern for the organisation and many of the riders for the last few weeks coming into this Vuelta a España. As it has happened, some big storms coming in. In fact, I got a video from Rob Hatch this morning. He got an email from his insurance company yesterday warning of storms. I did say to him, I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with that information in terms of protecting your own place, but nevertheless, he sent me a video this morning. My word, An incredible storm rolled into Mallorca where he
Oh, crash. One of the BH riders and Jayco riders coming down there. Oh, that just shows how slippery it is.
Yeah, and gaps appearing in the peloton as well. We don't know exactly where within this peloton that crash occurred. It might be where the split has happened. But just another reminder, as if we or the riders needed it, how dangerous these roads can be in these slippery, wet conditions.
Oh, it looks to be like that might be Michael Hepburn, is it?
Yeah.
No, Hepburn's just third to the back there, just missing it.
That was a good save by Hepburn.
Hopefully that's not Eddie Dunbar there. It looks to be Dunbar on the right-hand side of the road. Could be wrong. No, it's not Hepburn.
Callum Scott.
I thought so. Callum, the other solid-looking rider, yeah.
Well, he's back up onto his feet and onto his spare bike is Callum Scottson of Team Jayco Alula, but the rider of Burgos BH here in the purple kit unfortunately isn't.
There must have been some other riders come down here, because we've got a Soudal Quick Step car there that had a bike off the roof and a UAE bike off the roof. I don't know, that might be because of caution if riders did crash and they just got a bike off just in case, but it's the only one we've seen so far. Two of the riders coming down. That rain is definitely getting heavier now, isn't it?
Yep. Well, Gap's gone back up, not by a significant margin, but back up to 1 minute and 40 seconds. It looks like our breakaway has split on this descent, so Yetzabol, along with Jean-Nicolas Cacarulal here, around about 15 seconds behind the other three riders from our breakaway. And just to remind you who they are: Romo of Astana, Sobrero of Jayco Alula, and the young 22-year-old Italian in the pink jersey of EF Education Easy Post, Andrea Piccolo. I think that they think they've got a chance of making it to 9 kilometres to go in front of the main peloton. But the only person that really, really matters for, from a GC perspective, is Piccolo of EF Education Easy Post. They finished well up the order yesterday, just 6 seconds behind Team DSM. So if he has more than 6 seconds with 9 kilometres to go, where the GC times are taken, he could potentially go into the leader's red jersey. DSM doing everything they can to ensure that that does not happen. How are you seeing their chances now, Robbie?
I still believe they're going to get caught, but I think what's going to happen now that the rain is starting to fall, that there's going to be a little bit of pressure put on DSM from teams of GC favourites who are very risk averse to say, hey, stop chasing so hard, let it go. You won the team time trial. You had a great day yesterday. Please don't put the field under so much pressure because crashes are already happening. This is the sort of talk that goes on because everybody is, of course, protecting their own interests. So DSM, though, they have to push on. Heading out towards 2 minutes again. Chances increasing.
Here is number 126, Callum Scottson, victim of a crash just a kilometre or so ago. Back up onto his bike, you can see the rips of his jersey and his shorts. No more information as things stand as to how the rider from Burgos BH is, Pelayo Sanchez, the 23-year-old from the Spanish outfit, but hopefully he's not as bad as it first looked when we saw him on camera a few moments ago. We are down one rider, of course, in this Vuelta a España already. Poor old Laurens de Plus of Ineos Grenadiers, who crashed after just a couple of kilometres of yesterday's opening team time trial. Tried to remount his bike, but suffered injuries bad enough to see him depart the race on day one. After all that preparation, all of that time spent at altitude, and he'll be a big loss for the Ineos Grenadiers. Saw how influential he was for Geraint Thomas in his aspirations of winning the Giro d'Italia back in May. 10th overall himself, Laurens de Plus. So our best wishes to the Belgian. Get well soon.
So this is the problem that we've got on their hands here now. Sorry, I was just interrupting there, just because we got the overhead of the peloton. And the GC riders, Jumbo-Visma, Soudal Quick-Step, Ineos Grenadiers, UAE moving up as well. They're all coming towards the front. They're all fighting position. They're starting to push each other around a little bit. That is the safest place to be for all the riders, to be at the front, but there's only so much room they can do so. So they have to fight to stay in position. That becomes the hardest part of it. When they do that, that also becomes the most dangerous part of it. And with it being dry and now raining, there's enough riders that go, if it was raining from start to finish, you generally sort of accept a little bit more where you are in the peloton and take less risk. But as it's just starting to rain and not really chucking it down as of yet, the directs will be saying the rain is only going to get heavier, so try and get in position now, try to get to the front now, that's the safest place to be. The more they go into the race, the more it's going to start raining, but with each rider wanting to be at the front, protect their GC leader, they're on the left-hand side there. You've got DSM just tucked in behind him, Soudal's quick step. On the right-hand side of the road, you've got Jumbo-Visma. So although they've got this rule with 9Ks to go, it's this fight now, 43Ks to go. It's already starting. It's already starting to get dangerous. And as I said before, each and every rider wants to stay safe. They want to get across the finish line with minimal disasters, without any crashes. And they've just stuck these bonus seconds on offer still. And it just makes that 9K rule, in my eyes, absolutely ridiculous, because then you get all the riders doing what they're doing now, is fighting to stay at the front because they need to be, just in case a rider tries to take the bonus points. So it's counteractive in what they've done, almost, the organisers. If they wanted it to be safe, they'd say, right, equal time through the stage. Doesn't matter if there's a crash where you get dropped inside the last 50k, we'll give you the same time within reason, sort of thing. If the group split's okay, but it's going to be dangerous from here on into the finish and all the way into the finish, even with that 9-kilometre rule.
Yeah, well, you just sort of mentioned it, Adam. They all get told go to the safe place at the front, which then becomes unsafe because they're all being told to go to the front.
Yeah.
But also, once they get that position, they're trying to maintain it by holding a high speed. They're going faster and faster, and it just takes one wet corner and down they go. But on that, leaving the bonuses in, I really do believe that the organisers have done that on purpose to create a bit more drama within the race and to try and lure out some of the GC riders to think, well, the others might well sit up. I'm not going to gain any time sort of on the road, but I can nick some bonus seconds, which would be pretty handy. And I'm sure there'll be a few thinking about it who aren't really deterred by the weather conditions. They'll be feeling fairly safe and think, well, I'm just going to race.
I'm pretty sure that a few moments ago I saw Soudal Quickstep on the front, in front of Team DSM, contributing to this chase, which, if correct, would suggest that Evenepoel is up for this stage, is up for racing and trying to take some bonus seconds towards the end. You can see it right up there. If you looking out for a rainbow jersey, of course he's no longer in that. That's on the shoulders of Mathieu van der Poel. Yet to see him race a pro race, done a criterium in the rainbow bands. But Remco Evenepoel, you just saw a few moments ago the red, yellow and black helmet. He's wearing his Belgian national champions kit and helmet, so safely nestled in and around the top 15 of this main peloton. Jumbo-Visma right up towards the front. Dylan van Baarle, the Dutch national champion, currently leading their squad, and you can bet that both Inigo and Roglic are not far behind him. Ineos Grenadiers up there towards the front as well, as are UAE Team Emirates. So the race towards 9 kilometres to go has begun in earnest. The gap to the 3 leaders that remain out front, it's still almost 2 minutes. It had come down to a minute and a half. They're doing a great job out there.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that. It is a split in the peloton now as well, so it has split from this descent already, but I don't quite know. The way the peloton looks like they're going, the way they've been pushing on and fighting position, I'm not sure if it is around there. Here's the back of the peloton where it has split. There's a few riders in there. You see Thomas de Gent a little bit further up. Looks like Callum Scottson a little bit further up from that. He hit the deck, obviously, so found himself back on, but...
See Diaz here of Burgos BH, he's also hit the deck.
There
he was not the rider that
remained
down from that team.
There's one UAE rider right at the front there on the left-hand side. Just trying to work out who that is. Quite a tall, rangy rider.
Well, we could assume, I think, that it can't be Ayuso or Almeida, because if it was, they wouldn't be alone from that team. There's a bunch of UAE Team Emirates riders towards the front on the right-hand side, just behind the Ineos Grenadiers in the red with the blue stripe down the back. So we can assume that their 2 protected riders are still safe and sound at the front of this peloton, but the nerves, Robbie, are already right in there.
Yeah, well, you could just see this push for the front. I mean, Jumbo-Visma on the left side of the road, and then coming up next to them, Soudal Quickstep with Remco Evenepoel, DSM Firmenich right in the middle, Ineos coming up towards the front as well. And just get a corner like this one, a sharp corner in the wet, coming in at high speed, and it doesn't take much, and they come undone. It was actually Egan Bernal from Ineos Grenadiers who was the one pushing up towards the front, I thought. But good to see him getting amongst things again, and really getting his confidence back. Yeah, it was him, number 33, Bernal. Onto a bigger road now. So it seems to be on these sort of more twisty sections of road that they're getting a bit more nervous. But if they get a shot, or if they get now the news that at the front the rain is getting heavier just 2 minutes up the road ahead of them, where we see the breakaway now, those nerves will kick in again. There'll be another big push to be at the front for all these twisty sections and these sort of long and even off-camber corners that we see the breakaway going through.
Well, in the space of the next 30 kilometres, DSM need to close this gap by 1 minute and 37 seconds to remain in that leader's red jersey. We'll see if they do it, but to bring you through this last 39 kilometres, I'm going to hand you back to Carlton Kirby and Sean Kelly. I'm going to enjoy this one.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, enjoyment. You kind of take it where you can. Between the showers, it had certain drama. Could be hell for them, but heaven for us watching. Thanks to Dan and Adam, who'll be part of the post-race analysis, of course. As I welcome Sean Kelly alongside myself, Carlton Kirby, back into the commentary position. And
just before I do leave, Carlton,
yeah,
sorry, just getting news in from Jocelyn, producer in Paris, to say that Oscar Onley of DSM Firmenich has abandoned this Vuelta, unfortunately, after a brilliant start yesterday. No, don't know the reasons why as yet, but that's really bad news for them.
Certainly is. He could have been a feature today, to be honest. I've marked him up. Well, we're looking at the front of the race at the moment, and it's shredding. So is the gap, you would think, but no. Our breakaway has just fallen apart very gently. There's a margin of 13 seconds with 3 up front, 2 chasing. A minute 42. Now, our effective finish line today comes early. We're going to race on over Montjuic, and then we will have our finale where the bonus seconds will be awarded. There's bonus seconds at the top of the peak, and then, of course, with our run-in. It's pretty nasty. Those of you who know the Tour of Catalonia will be very familiar with it. So are plenty of riders, actually, including Renko Evenepoel, who won this year in Catalonia, but also the likes of Thomas de Gent, who we've always seen lurking. He's won on 2 occasions over this very peak. The problem is, or the difference is, that we've taken it on multiple occasions in the past, and of course as part of course the Tour of Catalonia. So it's very different today. We're just doing it the once. So that battle of attrition that is very much a feature of the climb will be absent as you just look at the Puente de Diablo, the Devil's Bridge. I imagine Satan himself probably lives in that very shed. Satan's shed in the middle of it. It's not called that. I've just named it. They've been crossing here since 10 BC. How do they know? Did somebody write it down? They must have done. Chase is on. Robbie, this is frantic.
It is frantic, and you see just the pressure coming on. I mentioned just a couple of moments ago that the news is going to filter back to the peloton, that the roads are getting a lot wetter just up ahead, and they're on that section now. So as we've seen all along, there's a lot of sectors of this course that really the road slings around left and right, long corners, a few sharp ones thrown in, and that's just making it very, very sketchy and iffy on the road. So all those teams of the general classification contenders just making sure they're pushing to the front and keeping more riders behind them than are in front of them, because the more in front of you, the more danger is that somebody goes down. And you just look at the intensity now. UAE coming through to the front as well with one. Also Geraint Thomas right there in the middle in his iconic white frame sunglasses. Chris Hamilton, he's the DSM Firmenich rider who's just continuing trying to push the pace, but it's now just this battle for the front of the peloton that's pushing the pace on, and you can see what it's done to the time gap of that break back in now to 1:28.
Well, it's unfortunate, of course, particularly for Almeida, to be honest, yesterday. Got himself a puncture. Team finally decided to wait up for him. And in fact, didn't lose any time in the end, but it was a rescue mission that I think hampered them. So UAE Team Emirates could well do with all of the bonus seconds that we've got today. I don't think there's going to be any easement by the time we get to this 9 kilometres to go, Sean. I think there's too much temptation out front. And whatever chances are offered to you, you've got to take them.
Yes, well, we see here that it's just getting more nervous now, and you know, with the conditions, it's the norm here in this early part of the Tour of Spain, and it's just going to go on to the 9 kilometres, and it's going to be a fight into every roundabout and every complicated road section, and we can see advantage coming down very, very quickly here, and will it change when we get to that 9 kilometre mark? That we'll have to wait and see. And I think that a lot of the GC men wondering, you know, what's the other guys going to do? Is he going to, you know, continue on racing, try and stay up front? And that's where all the problem will start for the GC men. And with the conditions again, these horrible, as we see yesterday in the earlier part of this stage, it looked like it was going to dry off. Well, Adam Blythe said he was saying it was going to be dry conditions, but I'd not like him to be giving me the forecast before I go out on my bike. But yeah, it's not a good one here at all, and yeah, this is going to be a real nervous times now, and just, you know, they want to stay in front because the 9 kilometre point, but again, a crash here at any point and you could get, you know, just caught behind and lose you know, 30-40 seconds very, very quickly. So it's all down to, you know, keeping out front of the peloton here and just try and stay out of danger.
Well, of the break, I've got to say that Mathieu Sobrero would have been the choice for Jayco, or at least one of them today, possibly Engelhardt as well. He's ridden extraordinarily well today. You take your chances where you can, and these three have got a chance. Let's not beat around the bush, Robbie. Horrible conditions. But there you see, you just take your hands off the bars for one moment. Suddenly you've got a traffic calming rubber device in the middle of the road, has to bunny hop it with one hand with a bead on in the other. The shocks come thick and fast, and especially when your kind of visibility is indeed hampered. And Rui Oliveira, UE Team Emirates, has crashed as well. No word upon his fate, but the pace that they've put in, it's skittery, Robbie, and we're seeing it everywhere.
It is, and you're going to see more and more of it. The rain is getting heavier. I've just checked the radar, and I mentioned earlier there was quite a heavy rain system just to the south down around Tarragona that's floated its way up the coast and you know, is over the top of Barcelona and all along the coastline now. So it looks like it is going to be wet and raining all the way through to the finish. And as we come into the outskirts of Barcelona, these built-up areas, more and more roundabouts, more and more road furniture as well. It is only going to get worse and worse. It's going to make the peloton more and more nervous. Even if the time does get taken at 9 kilometres to go, it's going to be an almighty battle to still be in the front of the peloton at that point. And we could see major splits happen before that already. With 33k to go, there is so much more racing to come. You can hardly fit it into 33 kilometres.
It's amazing, isn't it? That crackle you can hear, by the way, is the rain on the effects mic. Now, they usually have something that looks like they've they've done something unmentionable to an enormous raccoon. That is the wind sock that stops us hearing things like raindrops. But when it gets absolutely sodden, soaken through, it becomes essentially hard, and that's why you're hearing that crackle of the raindrops right now. It has to get very, very wet for it to get to that state, and it's very, very wet. No rooster tails kicked up from those up front, but where the shower has been through here, you can certainly see that, and the camera bike itself getting it very much out of shape, as you can see. They come up traffic calming devices very, very quickly upon you, and a big crash almost at the same area that the camera bike went through. So a bit of movement laterally. Couple from Jumbo-Visma also on the deck here. Not nice. UE, another. It's Milano that's on the deck, just trying to get the chain back on at the moment. Thankfully,
it's Roglic.
It looks injury-wise, and Roglic was involved there. My life, and they're all waiting up for him, as you'd expect. Let's take another look at it. Now, you saw the motorcycle just getting out of shape. What about everybody else? Same kind of deal, just off that curve, a slippery surface, no doubt, Robbie.
Yeah, the rider just to the left of Primož Roglic looked like he just touched that white line on the very inside of the roundabout, and Roglic just saw it coming, almost had his hands off the bars and ready to just take the fall and go down. I mentioned it just a few moments ago. As you get into the built-up areas, the rain continues, the fight gets more intense. They are going to start to go down. The peloton will split, and it's happening.
Welcome back, everybody. A bit of a scare for Primož Roglič. It almost seems if even if there was a damp bus ticket on the course, he'd probably find it. He got through yesterday with some nervous times. Well, today he's been on the deck, and while some of you have been away, camera bike has just rolled through this corner, and I'm afraid it has taken prisoners, and it continues to do so. This is Piccolo. As the break gets a bike exchange. Thankfully, the gap's still big enough for him to be serviced, but it's all kicking off everywhere at the moment. The motorcycle doing a great job of stopping here. Double wheels at the front means that they stop very, very smartly. But a whole series of roundabouts as we head back towards Barcelona are causing the issues. And the white lines that indeed mark them out as a warning almost, well, certainly justified today. Goodness me, we've got accidents going down all over the place, and maybe that 9 kilometre rule is a wise one, but the temptation of the bonus seconds that still lie ahead beyond that point, I think that's going to cause havoc. We're already seeing it here. Minute and 12 with the peloton, as you can see. That's to the group of pursuers. Not quite detailed just for the time being. Whether that includes Andrea Piccolo, I don't think it does. 30.9 to go, Sean. Mayhem.
Yes, well, we can see it there, Piccolo, he just slided out in a corner, and that just tells how slippery it is here. And we can see here in the peloton they're trying to calm things down. Vingegaard there, and Van Baarle trying to just say to the riders, okay, just relax here and try and, slow down a bit, because they know how slippery it is here. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting one now, because with that 30 kilometres to go, peloton at 120 down, this could be the opportunity for the guys out front, the two men out front, and the other man chasing here, Piccolo, who has lost a lot of time to his other two companions.
Well,
they know how slippery it is, and they know that Primož Roglič may not yet be back in the peloton. So there's no surprise to see Jumbo-Visma, the ones at the front, saying to slow things down, because one of their leaders in Roglič had gone down not just a couple of kilometres ago, and is still trying to make his way back towards the front.
Well, it's a negotiation going on. I saw as soon as they had a chat with Ineos Grenadiers, the answer was no. Was it Kim Hajduk that they were talking to? He was shaking his head saying, you've got to be joking. But it's to everyone's benefit, I guess, if we do slow down, at least momentarily. See what the gap is. We've still got 29.6 kilometres to go, if indeed the original finish line is at the forefront of everybody's minds. But in 20 kilometres time, Sean, we are going to be at our provisional finish line for the day, 9Ks out.
Yes, well, that's what the understanding is. At 9 kilometres, that's where it's going to be the time taken for the overall standings. But again, the time bonus are still up for grabs here, and yeah, how long will the peloton just knock off the pace here? It looks like that they seem to be agreeing a bit here. You can see the way they're all bunched across the road here, and yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Certainly for the guys out front here, the advantage with just that 20 kilometres to go now to get to that place where the 9 kilometre goal mark, the time will be taken for the overall.
Have yourself a comforting gel, why don't you, and get on with the rest of the day. Robbie, these are far from ideal conditions. I fear that we may well indeed have them up to Andorra tomorrow. Saw the mountain bike race, which is going on one of our other channels earlier on, and the conditions looked equally as horrible. It's a nightmare start to this race.
Well, they are horrible today. The good news is that tomorrow looks completely different, and it looks sunny and warm. So hopefully everyone can get through fairly safe and unscathed today. Well, not everybody's going to, because they've already been coming off, but as long as they get through today, then it's likely to be much better tomorrow, as we get their confirmation of Oscar Onley abandoning the race, unfortunately, for DSM Firmenich. So the highs and the lows, part of the Team Time Trial winning squad yesterday and out of the race today, that makes us up to 2 abandons now after Laurens de Plus, who I did see confirmed that he has a fracture in his right hip, not displaced, so I call it a crack in his hip. We don't know exactly where, but the team expect him to make a quick and a full recovery, so all the best to him. Roglič back on the back of the peloton, and he must just be shaking his head and think, well, here we go again, 2 days in and I've gone down already.
Well, you know what? If it's bad luck, he's hoping to meet early and then get rid of it. Maybe that's the case. The trouble is, it's often the echo of a moment like that, Sean. can certainly live for the rest of this stage. Some say adrenaline kicks in and you're able to ignore the pain and the rest of it, but it might build in some hesitancy into Roglic's drive today.
Yes, well, I think when you go down like that, you're always a little bit more nervous than in the following kilometres and for the rest of the stage. And luckily he came down, I think okay there. He just slided out and he could see the rider. It looked like it was a UAE rider who just slided to his left and pushed him out and took him down. So I don't think any damage there, but again, your confidence takes a little bit of a knock there, and in the final that's going to be the case. And not surprising with the conditions here. You can see the road, how slippery it's going to be, and it's worse it's going to get, because when we get in closer to Barcelona, all that oil on the road after a long period with no rain, it's just going to be a terrible one here. And yeah, we can see the peloton is starting to wind it up again here now, and this one is going to be a hectic final here. And yeah, then we have to get up this Montjuic climb, and before the Montjuic climb, that is a very complicated. There's that 10 kilometers to go. It gets really, really technical roundabouts all the time, and that's in the part of the race where it's going to get much more slippier.
Bit of a chit-chat going on here. Ed Blankert from Opsinterkönig just exchanging a few views, it seems, momentary snatched conversations with Jonas Vingegaard. Minute 32. Molin del Rey, the King's Lumps, I guess you might say. Let's see. We have this big circuit. Really, the most technical element of it starts with about 7 kilometres to go. We'll talk you through it when we get there, but there's plenty of twists and turns even in advance of that. And in fact, we're not that far away from what is the declared finish line today, preliminary. They will race on to get a completion in the full distance of today's stage. But bonus seconds are out there to tempt those who are brave enough to go for it. And I think any alliance, even in this kind of weather, has possibly been shredded, especially when demands are being made, Robbie, by Jumbo-Visma to wait up for Primož Roglic. I don't know whether other teams are going to feel slightly aggrieved at that. They've had to knock off the pace, which was clearly having an impact on some rivals.
Well, they knocked it off for a roundabout or two, but now DSM have got back into it and setting that pace, because they've got a jersey to defend, and they're not going to change the rules now on the hop to provide Primož Roglic safe passage to the finish and let DSM defend without chasing. So they've got to do what they've got to do. Just on DSM and Oscar Onley, the team have just they've just X'd, because you can't call it tweeted anymore, can you? They've just X'd that
could call
Oscar Onley has a suspected broken collarbone, unfortunately. So he's going off for medical checks, and they'll update later this evening. Really terrible luck for the young Brit in this Vuelta, out already.
Here is that
again. Dylan van Baarle is just trying to rule things at the front.
I understand it, and I understand the sentiment. And there are others joining in here as well. Evenepoel, as if to say, look, bit of unification. Now watch the shaken heads here from Ineos Grenadiers. Not happy about this at all. And there's a few others as well. Bahrain didn't look best pleased either. Requests like that, they used to come thick and fast when we had the patron of the peloton. Those days seem to have gone, Sean. I think they're relying on more of a collegiate decision these days, rather than just some father of the peloton coming up and waving his arms and saying, right, knock it off, everybody, and then everyone adhering to it. Those days are gone.
Yes, I think they're gone, and you can see there, the problem is trying to control it here. It's an impossible one, and there's a few of the teams there. We can see Remco Evenepoel as well, very much to the front, but DSM, they want to keep on riding here because they have, to try and close this one down and hold on to the race leadership. And for DSM, this is an important, part of the race for them, and other teams as well who feel they can, get something out of the end of today's stage. So it's an impossible task really to calm it down inside the final 25 kilometres, and it's just going to keep going on here now. And we can see still this rain coming down, and the forecast, that's what we're getting. It's going to be one of these finishes which is going to be really difficult, as we see. Is this a mechanical?
No,
Sobrero, yep.
Pulling the pin by the looks of it.
He's done.
He is. Simple as. Sobrero, I can't see him mechanically. It may well be he's riding through a slow puncture, but he's not looking down as if, oh, mind you, he's on the radio right now saying, not my day today. I mean, he's a fantastic time trialist and a big engine of this break. I think that's the killing off of it, Robbie.
Yeah, could well be. Just watch out for this roundabout. I just noticed when the brake went through here, there was an unsignalled hole on the right-hand side. And in these sort of weather conditions, I just gasped as it went through. There it is. They've got around safely, all pointed out to each other. But as Sean and I have both been saying, the really complicated part is yet to come. In these weather conditions, they're getting onto the outskirts of Barcelona as it gets more and more built up. There's just more traffic furniture, more turns, more roundabouts. There's more problems coming for this peloton. And fortunately, what's on their side is now they're getting the break back under control. They've taken some 40 seconds off it in the last 5 or 6 kilometres, even though there has been a number of riders at the front urging those chasers to slow down and take it easy. So it looks like everything's coming back together. They've lost Sobrero, just 2 left out the front with 23 kilometres to go. So it's looking like it will all come back together, but they're not out of the danger zone.
They're not. Good push here. Kim Heiduck, who was the man shaking his head, I believe, as they were asking everyone to slow down. Here's one of your technical corners. Just get used to them, because there's plenty of these. There is...
crash.
And do you know what? That was just so benign as well, the pace that we had coming into this. This is turning out to be absolutely lethal. Now, you see the white lines we've got here and the painted road surfaces, of which there are plenty. They're pretty grey, which suggests laid down rubber, bit of gunk and nastiness as well for everyone to deal with. And that's Biedar that's just to the side of the road. It can't quite see because of the raindrops. Oh, it's Geraint. It's not, I beg your pardon. It's Butrago, yes, who is stuck at the side of the road. My goodness, they're all just stacked up. They're in no hurry to get on with this at all. And a big old conversation going on. It's Patilli just having a chat as well. Michael Storer, indeed. 45 seconds to the breakaway. They've all sped on. Cars stacking up behind these riders who are in no hurry to make any allowances for anybody who's around here. They're trying to guide them through, but yet again, grisly day. Nasty road surface, which has been dry for such a long time, and even with the heavy rain that we've had, it's not clean yet, Robbie, by any means, this surface.
No, it's not. We saw this a lot yesterday in the team time trial. It was nearly all of the Jaco Alula team fell off on the entry to a corner, so it's under brakes. The roads are so slippery. You're not even getting into the cornering phase. It's under brakes that the tyres are just letting go on these slippery surfaces. And we saw there Michael Storer now and Patilli finally underway, got their bikes untangled. It was like some sort of sick parlour game. Get the bikes untangled if you can. They couldn't, and they're going to lose a big chunk of time.
They are, I'm afraid. How much of a useful element Francois Biedar would have been to Brian Coccaro, I believe, is their man for today. Not bad in skiddery conditions either, Coccaro. So anyway, let's wait and see. They've cordoned this roundabout to allow to force everyone to go round it in the same fashion. We're only, Sean, 12 kilometres away from our declared provisional finish today. We will race beyond it.
We will race on, but that is the point where the time will be taken for the GC classification, the overall standings. But the question is now what will happen after that. As we have seen a number of times here, some of the big names trying to calm the situation. Will they manage, to have an agreement there where they will all stay together in the group and not continue on racing up Montjuic and then down to the finish here? And that is the worrying times for everybody, because you have to stay in the front end of the race with the other big favourites and see what they are going to do. But yeah, we can see the way the peloton is just all over the road here, gaps everywhere, riders getting dropped, and not surprising because the last crash there, we could see the corner. They had knocked up the speed quite a lot, and they're still sliding out here. So, this final 20 kilometres is going to be real nervous for all here. And that 9 kilometres to go will be interesting. One, see what will happen between the big teams and the big riders in this race.
Twice a winner in Catalonia on this very final stage, this peak Montjuic that we're dealing with. Thomas de Gent, he'd backed out of it and said forget it. It might well be that he's shipping a bit of time. Here's our race leader, Lorenzo Milesi.
He's crashed.
Yes,
yep,
he was down. He was down that last crash. I see him just. He was at the very front of it, and he got going very quickly. But yeah, we can see here he's lost contact.
Well, his team have got every reason to push on, because with a finish that still has some potential for them, they've got Dainese, of course, Romain Bardet himself. I would have said Onley, but sadly he is out of the race, and it looks like out of contention and out of the leader's jersey is this man, crashing just too far out. If it had been another 10 kilometres, it would have been okay because of today's declared GC finish, but he's not going to get back in, and they're not going to send anyone back for him, Robbie.
No, they're not going to send anyone back because he's not their hope for the overall GC. But he's just waiting for the team car to come up. They're there now alongside him, and let's see if he's got a mechanical. Certainly the message is not going through to the team that they must slow up or wait, because that time gap has gone back above a minute again to Andrea Piccolo and Javier Romo. So with 19k to go, a minute and 5, and they need to hang on for 10k. This is doable for one of these guys to potentially, well, not one of them, I would say Piccolo then, to maybe take the leader's jersey.
Well, he's in a fabulous position, unlike this man. I mean, he was full of smiles yesterday. I imagine the size of his mouth turning down just a little bit, but it still could come good for DSM. Don't forget that they won yesterday's time trial. If they get over Montjuic, there's 3 seconds bonus, doubled up to 6 because of a bonus declaration at this particular climb. So they double the points. So 3 become, on the category 3, becomes 6. And then there's 10 seconds bonus at the line. So 16 is a happy place, and they'll still believe. But if not in their red leader's jersey, I'm afraid that tumble has counted against him, and the team are not going to hang around, because they could still basically transfer the jersey to another team member if they go well today. And I think they could if Alberto Dainese, if there's any kind of diminution in the pace over the climb, Dainese's got a chance today. And in fact our finale likewise does have a rise to it as well, and he's a super ramp specialist, Sean.
Yes, well, he can get over these difficult finals, and it will be an interesting one to see what he can do here, as there's many others. And the conditions here, early part of the race, that can change a lot, because a lot of the riders are fresh, and they'll have a lot more to give on this final climb and stay in the front as well. And these sprinters, punchers, they can ride in the front end of the race, and that is also very important here, to get into a good position as you get ever so closer to the climb up Montjuic. And it's only a short one, but it's a steep one. But again, the conditions as well, the weather conditions, that can have an effect on some riders, and other riders can perform quite well in the conditions we're getting here this evening. So to pick a winner here, there's a lot of riders in here with a chance, and a lot of riders thinking, yes, I can get something and I can maybe win this stage here. And this is going to be a spectacular final, whatever happens here. But looking at the peloton, 56 seconds, still a big advantage to close down to the riders out leading on the road.
Caden Groves is looking good, and Alpecin de Koenig are certainly up towards the driving front of the chase as it stands at the moment. You can see they're blue with just the red accent. Movistar also very much in the vanguard. Only 8 kilometres to go before our declared finish, and well within range for the two riders who remain up front. Sabero has been dropped by that group, but Piccolo and Romo are riding together and doing a fantastic job. Sabero struggling to stay with, still declared at 20-second margin, I think more than that. Pick your way through around all of this. It's a golden thread for some in these appalling conditions. Alpecin are up for this, Robbie.
They're certainly up for this. They believe in Caden Groves. And think back to the stage you won in the Giro d'Italia in wet and slippery conditions. They all fell off in the last right-hand corner onto the seafront. Mark Cavendish slid his way across the finish line that day. It was Caden Groves who won the stage. So he's fairly confident when it's wet and slippery, and it doesn't seem to deter him. He's also got the punch necessary to get over this 900-metre long 8.8% gradient climb and then hold himself towards the front. And it'll be a real change in dynamic when we don't have the big GC favourites really pushing towards the front. We don't expect them to. Well, you never know. One of them might pop out and see if they can get some bonus seconds. They may not be on offer for the peloton at this rate. 54 seconds with 16k to go for our 2 leaders. And with the slippery and treacherous roads on the run in, it is just so incredibly difficult to use the power in numbers in the peloton. You just simply cannot ride any faster with the roads and the condition they're in being wet.
Well, Tibidabo in a pleasure centre for over 120 years. Looks more ancient than that. Nobody in the fun fair today. All the fun is being had by us. I think you might say. I can't even declare it for the riders, although one of them is going to be smiling today. Why on earth should it not indeed be Caden Groves? He survived these conditions in the past, as Robbie was saying, in the Giro d'Italia. However, I noticed that on the back of that line of Alpecin-de-Koning was Brian Coquard, who I've been banging on about since the beginning of the programme. He clearly believes in Alpecin-de-Koning today. So do I. 46 seconds, not for the first win of the 2 that are available today. Whoa, 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 whoa. Take your time. Well, everyone else will have seen these pictures, Sean, and that's a big warning, that right-hander. Take it easy, for goodness sake, if you want to stay upright.
Yes, well, that will be relayed back to the riders from the DSs, and it will just, make everybody again more nervous, try and stay to the front. But we can see here Alpecin, they're starting to line it out, starting to stretch it out a bit. That makes it a little bit safer, but again, if a rider just in front of you, a place, 2 or 3 places in front of you slides out, that's the danger. You have to correct your line, and then you're also on the deck here. But we can see here, it's starting to stretch out a bit more, and the gap, 37 seconds, is coming down. But will they be able to take it down enough?
Here's your corner, Sean. They all know about it. My goodness, they all wanted to look at it. Yep. And even with the warning, some of them still get it wrong, Robbie.
Yep, well, they're just being overly cautious, not trying to just pull harder around to the right, but just seeing they got that runoff room. So they chose to go straight ahead, do their braking in a straight line. It's the only way to get it done when it's wet and slippery. We talk about risk-reward. The reward is not there for the general classification contenders today, but it certainly is for Andrea Piccolo in front, along with Javier Romo. And Piccolo, we saw him in that same corner, taking all the risks to just try and eke out another second or 2 lead. 38 seconds ahead with 14k to go, 5 kilometres until they stop the clock for the GC, and he is 6 seconds down on the lead of the race. So it's desperate times for Andrea Piccolo. He's never won a race in his career yet, but it's equal to winning a race if you take the jersey in a Grand Tour.
Absolutely. Let's wait and see. Templo de Sagrada Corazon Curious, I think. Well, we've seen the fun fair area. One of the saints, anyway. I'm invoking anything I can today. Here we are. This looks to be in error. Onley is one of those who's out, I'm afraid. So, yes, he's looking for some points there, but I'm afraid he's hoping for some good news from the hospital today. A suspected collarbone from Oscar Onley. Apologies for that erroneous graphic. 13.2 kilometres then from home, 36 seconds the gap, and still they power into this wide open highway. Now this is almost a catch zone for these guys.
Yeah.
DSM will have a motivation to close it. 37 seconds. They're going to be well within sight, Robbie. This is one of those moments where a breakaway would be hoping for small streets and corners to hide in.
Yeah, they needed the technical sections to continue, and this is the perfect road for those chasers from DSM and others from Alpecin to empty the tanks and that lead into that final 9 kilometres where the clock stops for GC, so they can pull these 2 back and rein them in and not lose that red jersey, but a bit disorganised now towards the front. We have Soudal Quickstep on the left-hand side pushing up with Remco Evenepoel, Ineos Grenadiers on the right, up through the middle, Alpecin de Koenig, and very little of the yellow and black, and somewhat separated from each other is Jumbo-Visma.
Yeah, disparate throughout the group. And as you saw, a big compression there from about 10 wide to about 5 wide to get onto the slip road. And in so doing, they had to slow up. And it's not cohesive, the chase at the moment. Nobody really wants to put in the effort right now. There are bonus seconds up for grabs. And for those principals who believe that they can come through and take the day, possibly the climb plus the result, maybe they're thinking, well, you know what? Maybe it's not worth the candle to try and chase down Piccolo, who would take the race lead if he crosses the line, which is looming up in about 3 kilometres time. Goodness me. This is the Sagrada Familia with a Portaloo on top, I notice. I don't think that was part of Gaudi's plan. but anyway, you know, he turned up with a wheelbarrow and some cement and started building this back in the day. And they took his drawings and decided to complete it after his death. They still reckon they're about 50 years away, Sean. It's a long-term project, a bit like today.
Yes, a long-term project. And yeah, it's a spectacular one. But we can see here, you know, this the kilometres to go here. It looks like it's starting to tick on again here, and 48 seconds is that the exact time here, because on this section where it's, you know, a straight open road here, you would expect it to be coming down a bit more here, but yeah, we can see there's a big scatter in the peloton there. Jumbo-Visma was the one we could see. Vingegaard, he was pretty much at the front, but other than that, the jerseys of Jumbo just all, you know, scattered all around in this top 50 places in the peloton.
It's done. This breakaway's going to get there, aren't they, Robbie?
Well, I was sceptical about the time gap. We just saw it tick down 10 seconds really rapidly. I think it's just the position of the motorbikes on the road with the GPS equipment that's thrown it off a little bit, because the peloton had the two chasers at around in the sort of mid-30s, 35 seconds or so, and then it seemed to go back out to 50. It's less than that, but they're getting so close now to that 9 kilometre mark where the clock stops, and it is looking very much like Andrea Piccolo maybe putting himself into the red leader's jersey. They are hanging in there.
They are. Now, no points at this 9 kilometre to go marker. So basically they will finish and then have a measured advantage over those who are chasing. At the moment it holds at 33 seconds, so the gap is coming down. I think there's an acceptance within this group that nobody really wants to push on to try and close the gap, because that's effort that they're going to require, Sean, when we come to the climb, which has bonus seconds over the top and indeed at the finale. So they've kind of stared each other into the abyss here. They've not decided to let these guys have their fun. Maybe the race lead to Andrea Piccolo, a suggestion in their minds perhaps that they only think this is going to be lent momentarily. They're 900 metres away. Everyone else is thinking about the end proper of today, not this 9K from home.
Yes, well, I think you know, teams here in the main peloton have different objectives here. The GC men are not concerned about meaning the big contenders of this race at the end. They're not concerned about the guys out here in front at all, but the teams that want the stage win, notably Alpecin, you know, they feel that this gap will come down, so they can afford to knock it off and spare a little bit of energy before we get onto the climb, and that's where it's going to be very important. The teams that want to get their puncher, their sprinter in a good position to get up the climb, they have to be in the very front of the main peloton. So that is probably the reason here that, you know, it's not going as fast as it was a number of kilometres ago, because the teams that are thinking stage win, they feel that it's under control for that objective.
Big turn then, 100 metres to go. In fact, they're here. 23 seconds is the veritable gap here. And so, having crossed the 9 kilometre line, Piccolo leads this race. Sorry, I didn't see it. No defined 9 kilometre line, I'm afraid. 23 seconds, we understand, is the gap. So that was the advantage that Andrea Piccolo took to the line. In fact, are they declaring it now? So our ticker just slightly out, I'm afraid, by about 300 metres. Doesn't help, does it? So we'll have to wait until the official results at the end of the day to find out what the gap was. There's somebody with a stopwatch and a thumb doing it old schooly. time to start thinking about climbing. These guys have done a fabulous job, Robbie.
Oh, they've done an incredible job, also aided by the fact that we've had such treacherous conditions. A number of crashes are slowing in the peloton a couple of times. Jumbo-Visma, sort of the main men trying to slow things down, but it's all been good for Andrea Piccolo because he has put himself into the lead of this Vuelta. And now they can think about trying to hang on as long as possible. In the background, though, it looked like there were riders starting to sit up, but others making their accelerations, and the peloton, what's left of it, is bearing down upon the two with 8 kilometres to go.
Here we go then. Andy Cron from Lotto Destiny is getting himself up and into positions. A few others here as well. 2 from EF Education. I imagine Marijn van den Berg is being led in here. Rather smartish, or one can imagine, possibly by Caicedo. That would be a good idea. Bit of shoulderage as well. They all want to get onto the climb in a decent position. 7.9 kilometres to go. Now, we kind of corkscrew today. Those of you who watched the Tour of Catalonia will be familiar with it. This is at the back of the peloton.
That was just the catch. That was the catch being made just a moment ago.
Thank you, Robbie. Just back here, Stefan Bissegger just shooting the breeze with what looked like Omar Fraile over to the other side of the road. Some of the riders who will not be taking part today, essentially, in the big drive to the line. So essentially all together, but I believe, because we didn't see the gaps and we didn't see the defined line, that Andrea Piccolo will lead this race at the end. Notwithstanding the bonus seconds that are up for grabs, still, Sean, at the top of the climb, there will be 6 bonus seconds, and there will also be 10 seconds at the finish. So it's worth going for this climb, and the peak of it is approaching us now.
Yes, well, we start the climb at roughly 4.5 kilometres to go, so a little bit more to go to the start of the steep part of the climb, but it is starting to, gradually kick up here, and we can see the way, the peloton has lost a lot of riders here. It'll be interesting to see who exactly is here. Looking like that the GC men, I cannot see many of them up there for the moment, yeah, that is going to be, I think, the concern now for the GC men, to just see where everybody else is, and that there's nobody trying to filter away in the group that's, leading part of the peloton. That's what they have to be careful with. But going on the way they were riding earlier on, it seemed like the GC men were happy enough to take the pace down, so I would expect them to be sitting back here and not contesting in this final run up the climb and to the finish.
Lots of marking out going on at the moment, including I noticed the wearer of the Young Riders classification jersey. That is Max Poole for DSM. That would be a good card indeed for them to play, I guess. Bardet, Dainese, has he got what it takes today to come through? Let's wait and see. They've certainly got options, DSM. It's not all over for them. It is for this group. We've seen a big old filtering down, Robbie. Those who read the right act to each other, I think. There's going to be 2 groups here, 2 defined groups.
Yep, favourites have sat up. Remco Evenepoel on the front line there, and the peloton at the front very, very small, being driven by Groupama FDJ. So that will be for Romain Gregoire. You mentioned Marijn van den Berg from Education First to Easy Post. One of those outsiders for the stage win today, a man who's been in very good form on a finish like this one this year. Baggioli pushing around up there as well. So the riders we mentioned, also Caden Grove, still being led well by Alpecin de Koenig. 4 of them together from about 10th to 12th position. So Groupama FDJ taking up, forcing the pace at the moment with 6k to go. Gregoire just with 1 teammate left in front of him.
Gosh. This is a fantastic opportunity for those who are going to be brave enough to take it on. The main favourites have decided to just go en bloc, to come home together. But it's hard to fathom just how many riders are up here. One suggests it's possibly around 30 riders. Something around that number that will be gunning it out for the bonus seconds. But that's for our entertainment, and our climbing starts in a few moments' time. We've already taken the first step of the climb, if you will, and this is Evenepoel having a word here with Enric Mas, and there's a few others as well that really pondering the day and actually thinking better of it. Jonas Vingegaard, who I think was trying to instill and generate some kind of accord amongst the main names because of the conditions that we've been riding in. It's not a happy scenario for anybody, but at least we're going to get a little bit more road space, albeit with leaf mulch all over the place after the storms wash through here. Not only the water, but the vegetation here is going to get chewed up by the cars and the bikes and indeed the motorcycles that are coming through right now. Time then, with 5 kilometres to go, to have a little downhill section around the great theatre here, the National Music Theatre, before they head up and start taking on inclines of 12, 13 and 14%, Sean. This is not pleasant.
No, it's not a pleasant one, but it's a short one, so there's a lot of riders, you know, that we see the teams are working for. Bajoli, Groves, you know, these sprinters, punchers, they will be able to get up that climb. And you know, now we have a smaller group as well, and a lot of the GC men, or you know, all the main GC men have decided to knock it back. So that will, you know, take, I think, the big punch out of the main peloton. So it'll not be as difficult if it was where the GC men were here. But now we can see just moves coming out of the front of the peloton, and now we're just getting to the real difficult part of the climb here, where it kicks up to that very stiff gradient.
Yeah, it does. And for those of you who remember the Barcelona Olympics back in '92, this is where the diving pool was that overlooks the city. Some spectacular shots there, and a big old drive coming right now. And it is a little trek about a nightmare time of things yesterday that are kicking on. Can't quite see who it is just for the time being. Won't be surprised if it's Lopez himself. 400 metres from the top. It gnarls up, Robbie, to about 13% at this point. Now then, who is this? I'm just hoping it's Coquard. I don't think it is, but he's the sort of rider who can go for this. He only has to do it once, don't forget, whereas in the past he's looked very spirited at moments such as this. And with 3.8 kilometres to go, could it possibly be he? Can't see at the moment. 3.8 kilometres from home.
Could be Remy Rojas, the Frenchman from Cofidis, who's on the move, that small figure. Then Lotto Destiny rider, possibly Cron, going across. He likes these sort of conditions, this sort of climb up and over the top. The Lotto Destiny rider goes on the steepest sections, but there's a lot of work being done behind to just keep him under control. 3.5 kilometres to go from the top of the climb through to the finish. Well, fast downhill into that final kilometre, which keeps dragging on. Groupama FDJ keeping the pace up behind for Romain Gregoire. There's the top of the climb as they round this corner.
Well, he's on form, Andy Cron, as well, the Great Dane. He's going to take it here. He's going to take some bonus seconds as well. Not that it'll do him too much good after the time trial yesterday, but he's got a stage win in his head. 3.4 kilometres from home, so he now has the luxury of the drive down here. We've seen it so often before as we come through the park section, just shrouded by the trees, heavy in leaf at the moment, and then we will bounce with about 1,500 metres to go, and that's when we will begin our climbing to the line. We've still got a way to go before we get there, Sean, but this is long swooping curves, and thankfully the road has dried up a bit, Sean.
Yes, it has dried up a bit, and this is a section where it doesn't go down, you know, very rapidly for a time, and you know, it's a difficult one here for any rider to hold off, because 3 kilometres still to go here, and we can see behind there's a number of teams, but yeah, he's putting out a nice advantage here, but we can see a number of riders in the chase here.
Well, I'm hearing it's Lenny van Etveld. I'm not sure. I would have expected it to be Cron, just like Robbie, but you never know. Let's say 2.7 kilometres from home. We wait for a proper identification upon him. He's flown the coupe at the moment, and in fact done Thomas de Gent, who's won twice here, Robbie, and attacked at exactly the same margin and point.
Well, it was a perfect tactical attack at that moment, and opening up that gap as well. And look how this descent slings its way down, and this is the moment where you've got to take the risk if you're going to win the stage. Yelling at the motorbike, get out of the way. You're interfering with my lines. Try and find the dry section through the inside.
Brave.
And he's opened up the gap even more. That is brave.
This is going to be a steal by the looks of things. Sean, if you're going to push on into this kind of gap, then it is going to there's going to be consequences. Took the Isère Tour, the Alpe Isère Tour this year, and in equally grisly conditions. Oscar Onley, I thought, would go well today, unfortunately out, finishing runner-up to the Belgian, if indeed it is he. We're hearing that it is 1,600 metres to go. This will be a famous win for him, Sean, nonetheless.
Yes, it will be, and you have to take the risk when you're in this situation, and he is really pushing on here, and it is number 94, so...
Sorry, we were misguided and passed it on, but
and
it is
on the climb, it looked very like Cron on the climb, but on the descent then it looked like that it was a rider, that was really taking the risk, but it is him here, and we can see the advantage as he go close to 1 kilometre to go. Looks like he can about hold on.
Well, he took a stage in the Volta Catalunya a couple of years ago, and he's just about to do it again, quite frankly. Here's the group of pursuers. They can't decide how to muster themselves. He's got a teammate back here as well, Cron, as a disruptor, and it looks like we are going to get an individual victory here. Fabulous effort by him. Took the bonus seconds as well over the top. Bad time trial yesterday for Lotto Destiny, so that's not going to make a big impact for him. But this is a huge day for him, Robbie, and well timed by the Dane.
A huge day if he gets there. Still 850 metres to go. Has anyone in that chase group got the legs to burst away from the rest? As you said, Cron has a teammate trying to disrupt the rest, but Cron, his legs will be screaming after that attack, gritting the teeth, wrenching his bike up the final part of this climb. But the gap is big enough. He'll be starting to get the feeling he's going to hang on to this one.
Well, he's in the hoarded sections right now, and after a desperate day on the time trial yesterday, another grisly day. And look at all of the litter that we've got here, the leaf litter, the vegetation that's been drawn down by the downpour here. Well, one man has provided a sunspot today, and this is going to be joyous for Lotto Destiny, a team that, like everybody else, has been a little bit beaten up by this race so far. But this will be like a magic potion, I think, that's going to bring joy to absolutely everyone within that team. Here he is, 4 hours and 22 in the saddle, suddenly washing over him and realising what he has done. He's only gone and taken a stage of La Vuelta. Super job by him. It's going to be minor positions only up for grabs for everybody else on this long-distance heads-up shot. Almost impossible to help you out as to who's doing what. But Alpecin get up there. Rueful shake of the head as well. Good position finish. Groves getting a good finish. Also for Kaya Royal. But nothing, I'm afraid, for the main players today who played it safe. They lived to expectations, I guess you might say, or at least to direction from race control here that essentially wanted the battle to be over with 9 kilometres to go, leaving a stage win up for grabs. No harm done to the GC ambitions of many of those who deeper into this race. But Andy Cron has taken himself a fine win on a less than fine day weather-wise.
Oh, what an attack by Cron on the steeper section of that climb up to the heights of Montjuic, and you saw him pointing to the sky as he approached the line. He's dedicated the victory to a young teammate from the Lotto Destiny development team who was due to join the World Tour team, Tel de Deckert, the Belgian, who very, very sadly passed away during the week after an incident out training with a motor vehicle. And you could just see the emotion on Cron's face as he reached the line, pointing to the sky.
Poignant moment indeed. Just about to say exactly that, Robbie, and thank you. Theo de Decker, just 22 years of age, lost his life recently, and this in some way will, I guess, help the team to acknowledge him and hopefully move on to happier days. Gosh, drama throughout today. It's going to take a lot of unpicking this, Sean.
Yes, well, it's going to be a day that they will be happy to get it over with, because we can see the conditions there in the run-in, all that debris on the road, the leaves, and a day that, you know, you just want to get into the finish. And for the GC men, we did see pretty quickly they were decided to all stay in that group together and not contest this finish at all. But yeah, for some here, you know, it was a real important one. And this man, Andreas Kron, he put in a big attack on that climb there on the steep part, and you know, made a great descent there. Was prepared to take the risk and gets his stage victory. So for Lotto Dynasty, a magnificent victory.
Well, he's got 16 bonus seconds as well. The gap didn't count at the end because we had a 9-kilometre out declaration because of bad weather conditions and surface of the road conditions. But he's knocked 16 seconds off his deficit overall. Lotto Destiny came home 34 seconds down. So Kron has indeed cut his margin and will be vaulting up the order. And might well even fancy let's say, the run into Tarragona. You just never know. He's that kind of rider. Gosh, what a day. I'm not looking forward to too many of these, Robbie. I'm hoping that your predictions about the weather tomorrow are coming true.
Well, so do I, and I think all the riders will be hoping that is coming true as well. But the forecast is for just partly cloudy, mostly sunny skies and up to 29 degrees at the end of the day in Barcelona, although they do ride away from Barcelona. But I tell you who does not care about the weather conditions today, this man, Andreas Kron. Big attack, willing to take the risks, had the firepower to do it, and dedicating that victory to Tal de Decker. Caden Groves, he did everything right. He did what he needed to do, but it took a fantastic attack by Kron to foil the Aussie sprinter who came in second. And it's a much-deserved victory for Lotto Destiny.
Well, what a dramatic day. We'll have another one for you for sure into Andorra. The business end of the day. The peaks and troughs for 2 Category 1 climbs at the very last, one of which carries a bonus. So expect the polka dot jersey to go to whoever is brave enough. Short stage to Andorra, but with those peaks at the end of the day, that's where the drama will be found, with 159 kilometres on the cards. And we're hoping for clement weather. No umbrellas on display, so the rain has finally decided to leave us, but had an impact today, Sean. And yet again, unfortunately, we've lost riders, including Oscar Onley.
Yes, well, it definitely had an impact on the race, and you know, it was just so treacherous out there, and unfortunately we have lost some riders, and I think there was quite a few probably crashes we did not see, and we just were hearing a bit later on into the stage. Everybody will be happy to get this day over with, and hopefully the weather conditions will get better, because normally, you know, of Vuelta, yeah, 90%, 95% of the time you get all this good weather, but on occasions when you get it a bad day, and here for this stage in Barcelona, this was the very wrong moment to get the wet and rain conditions because of the roads being so slippery. But I think got through pretty well, not too many big pile-ups. I was very scared that we'd have some big pile-ups in this final 30 or 40 kilometres. We did see some riders sliding out, but you know, that is the risk on those conditions. It's a bit normal.
Well, the nearest reference point we've got really to today was Poland with that gnarly, nasty 5% sprint, which Andy Kron dominated and looked so good. Didn't win it, but looked very collected. Today, timed his run absolutely brilliantly and went for it, and did everything right to make us talk about him, make us talk about his team, and remember De Decker, his fallen teammate, as well. Well, we'll ride on Andorra tomorrow, and we're just hoping for some sunshine. Omar Freire without the specs at the front. In fact, many riders deciding that maybe all of their clear solution has been washed off. Better to rely on blinking technology today. Let's hope we have a blinking better day tomorrow. Well, thanks to everyone who has joined us. There'll be a post-race analysis for those on GCN if you wish to go and see that. We'll be hanging on for the interviews and indeed the podium. Waiting to see indeed who's atop it. We've got Alberto Contador coming up for you in just a few moments' time. Robbie, you away for bed?
Yes, very shortly. Thank you, Carlton. Thanks, Sean, Dan and Adam, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.
Couple of miler awaiting Robbie.
La clasificación general escapado del día de hoy es italiano. Es el del equipo de Ukeson Francis por
And so,
Andrea
time for Piccolo, our leader in the break, and all credit to him, actually. There was a lot of prizes went the way of the breakaway, including the King of the Mountains jersey as well. That's been taken by Matteo Sobrero, who was really pushing on towards the end there. But Andrea Piccolo didn't let a crash diminish his desire, got back in, and indeed by the 9-kilometre marker came home and added to his advantage after a good time trial on day one, means that he leads the race. He also leads the Young Riders classification, I can tell you. Indeed, bonus seconds available on the first of the two peaks that end the day. Here's your King of the Mountains, Matteo Sobrero. Well, because of the bonus points that were available at the final climb, he denies Javier Romo, who'd done a lot of work earlier on in the stage. He got the climb that mattered and the points therein, and as a result, he's got himself a polka dot jersey, which he'll take back to the Jaco Alula bus. Good for him. Confirmation of that. Sobrero takes it ahead of Roma because of the double points that he got. They both finished on 6, but he came home ahead of Roma at the finish. So on countback, he leads this competition. Andreas Kron, we're going to hear from him in a few moments' time. He's the race leader, also the points leader, incidentally. Let's hear from him, shall we?
Andreas, first of all, congratulations. Your team